Chapter 1061. Miao Dao nodded heavily and sighed deeply. That's right. And from the looks of it, it's most likely not just 1 or 2 people undergoing the tribulation. The lightning is so dense, but the direction of the lightning tribulation is somewhat different. When it strikes out from the clouds, it's also striking in a few different directions, and the intensity is also very different. It can be concluded that there are at least 3 people or more. He paused for a moment and laughed coldly. Undergoing the tribulation at that place, don't those people know that the more people undergoing the tribulation at the same time, the stronger the lightning tribulation will be? If not for the fact that there are still no people who fail to undergo the tribulation, I would also say that those people undergoing the tribulation are all seeking death. Not to mention anything else, just the power of some of the lightning tribulations has clearly reached the level of a saint venerable, but even under such a strong power, no one has failed. Looks like this group of people who are joining hands to undergo the tribulation is precisely because they have absolute confidence. That's why they would use such an extremely unwise method. Jian, looks like the strength of Tian Fa Forest has far exceeded our expectations. If everyone can pass through the tribulation this time, then our original plan will probably have to change slightly. Miao Jian's face was also very ugly. Dao, if the 3 Holy Lands choose to ignore the big picture this time, what should we do? Miao Dao's face also turned ugly. After a long silence, he said, I believe that the 3 Holy Lands will not really ignore the big picture, but it's also impossible for them to not set up obstacles. The relationship between them and Jun Moxie has long been irreconcilable. If not for the fact that the war for seizing the heavens is right around the corner, and they also feel that their battle strength is insufficient to deal with this battle, they would have long started a war with Jun Moxie's forces. So, even if they don't completely fall out with each other and destroy the opening of the evil monarch manor, they will still exert pressure in many aspects, making sure that the evil monarch manor does not get what he wants. The opening of the evil monarch manor represents a good omen. If this omen is not good, the influence of the evil monarch manor will not be as great as expected. At least, it won't be like the sun in the sky right now, looking down on everyone. So, once the 2 sides start fighting, the result will be very serious. And at that time, our position will be very awkward. Especially after witnessing the strength of Jun Moxie's side today. Once we make a choice, the consequences will be far-reaching. An old man floated over like a gust of wind and stood beside the 2 of them. There's no need to worry too much about what the 3 Holy Lands will do. After all, this time, we will not choose to stand on the side of the 3 Holy Lands. He paused for a moment and smiled faintly. Of course, we will not stand on the side of the evil monarch. Miao Xiaomiao said in surprise. I'm afraid it will be a little difficult to maintain a neutral stance. And this kind of method might not be beneficial, right? If these 2 families really want to fight for supremacy in the continent, then our Misty Mansion will definitely have to choose a side to support. If we just watch from the sidelines, I'm afraid we won't be able to gain the favor of both sides. No matter which side emerges victorious in the end, it will not be beneficial to the future development of our Misty Mansion. There was a reason for Miao Xiaomiao's surprise. Her words were also quite reasonable. As the granddaughter of the Manor Lord, she naturally knew more about the relationship between the Misty Mansion and the Xian continent. She also knew that although the Misty Mansion was self-sufficient in name, there was actually a considerable amount of resources that had to be brought in from the continent to be truly sufficient. And if they wanted to obtain these resources, they had to have a tacit understanding with the true ruler of the continent. In the past, the 3 Holy Lands and the Misty Mansion had cooperated a few times, and the foundation was also built on mutual exchanges. For example, the 7 colored holy fruits that Xiao Ying had consumed was one of the most important exchanges. In reality, the 3 Holy Lands had completely blocked the Misty Mansion from obtaining the resources that they lacked. Even though the Misty Mansion was powerful, they could not be so detached from the world and be content in a corner. After all, although the people from the Holy Lands seemed to be secluded from the world, and did not appear in the pugilistic world, but in this world, there were countless powers that belonged to the three Holy Lands. They could be found in every corner of the Xian continent, and they were all rather influential families. Once these powers joined forces, the influence they could create was extremely terrifying, enough to affect the entire continent. And their wills were completely controlled by the upper echelons of the Holy Lands, so the entire continent's power was still in the hands of the three Holy Lands. It was just that they were used to being in high positions, and did not need to mobilize these powers. But the moment they mobilized these powers, it could easily cause a huge change in the entire continent. Xiao Miao lass, you're thinking too much. What you've said is the basic principle of the Misty Mansion. How could this old man not understand? In the end, it's impossible for us to not choose either side. The old man looked at Xiao Miao with admiration and smiled. But we really cannot make a choice now, because we will only cooperate with the side that wins in the end. There was one more thing that the old man did not say. Although there was no conclusion yet, but even if that Jun Moxie was Mo Junyi, and there was a marriage relationship between him and the Misty Mansion, if he lost this battle, the Misty Mansion would still not choose him. This matter concerned the future of the Misty Mansion for tens of thousands of years, so it was impossible for personal feelings to affect the overall decision. Xiao Miao nodded, not fully understanding. Although she was intelligent enough to detect the contradiction in this sixth grandfather's words, she did not pursue the matter further. Because along the way, she had already vaguely felt that when the elders were discussing matters, they would often avoid her, intentionally or unintentionally, although she did not understand the reason. Xiao Miao would not seek trouble for herself. Although she was the only granddaughter of the manor head, she was still young. It was not a big deal for the elders to not inform her of their decisions. Besides, her main goal was to find Junyi. What did that evil monarch or whatever have to do with her? It was better if they did not inform her. She would be happy to be free. The younger brother of the Zhan families, Zhan Wuyun, Zhan Wufeng, led 12 saint experts and stood silently at the back. The two people beside him were two fourth-level Holy Emperor experts of the Zhan family, acting as bodyguards for this trip. These two people were extremely proficient in the art of teamwork. Although their combined strength might not be comparable to the combined strength of Chao Guofeng and the other 7 Holy Emperors before they broke through, they would not be much weaker. The strength that the Zhan family had sent out this time was definitely enough to sweep through the entire world. If not for the fact that this was the opening ceremony of the evil monarch manor, which required a strong military force to not let down the prestige of the Misty Mansion, and the fact that the Zhan family had other motives, Zhan Wuyun really would not have sent out so many experts. However, these people had personally witnessed the dense lightning that seemed to stretch for hundreds of kilometers in the southwest, and all of them were terrified to the point that their faces turned pale. Panic appeared in their eyes, and although they weren't personally experiencing it, they were still indescribably terrified. Such a ferocious heavenly tribulation, even when any one of them was breaking through, they would not be able to compare to this. And this rare and ferocious heavenly tribulation actually lasted for an entire afternoon. And Miao Dao and the rest also stood on this hill 1,000 li away for an entire afternoon. Only when the sky turned dark and the jade rabbit rose from the east did they finally return to their tents. There were a total of 20 people from the Misty Mansion. The Miao family, Miao Dao, Miao Jian, Miao Xiao Miao, and that sixth brother, Miao Zhan. The Zhan family, 16 people, including Zhan Wufeng, 2 of the Holy Emperor's bodyguards, and 12 saints. The only young person who came with them was Zhan Yuting, who was originally ranked 3rd in the younger generation of the Zhan family, but had now jumped to 1st place. In the heart of the Zhan family's patriarch, Zhan Wuyun, this opening ceremony of the evil monarch manor was nothing more than an ordinary ceremony. It was a good opportunity for the younger generation to broaden their horizons and increase their knowledge. And now that Zhan Yushu and Zhan Qingfeng had died, he could only bring Zhan Yuting, who had never stood out before, out to see the world. After all, he was the future hope of the Zhan family. There were no great generals in Shu, so Liao Hua was the vanguard. They arrived at this place in the morning. Although this place did not have any specific history, but every time the Misty Mansion and the three Holy Lands needed to act together, the people from the four powers would gather here. This had already become a tradition for thousands of years. So although the Misty Mansion had arrived early, they were still waiting here for the people from the other three places to come. Three grandpas, why are we not moving forward anymore? Isn't there still some distance to the destination? Miao Xiao Miao was very puzzled. They had rushed all the way here, so why did they suddenly stop? It seemed like there was still more than 1,000 miles to the location of the evil monarch manor. Although with the speed of the people from the Misty Mansion, this distance would only take about 3 days, but it was still quite a distance. And along the way, whenever Miao Xiao Miao passed by a place with people, she would ask about Mo Junye's movements. But Mo Junye was a fictitious person, and it was destined that no one would know of him. Even if they met someone with the same name, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Miao Xiao Miao had originally been filled with boundless hope along the way, but now she was becoming more and more melancholic. Xiao Miao lass, this is your first time coming to the Xian continent, so you naturally do not know. We have to wait here for the three Holy Lands to come and meet them together. Miao Dao looked at Miao Xiao Miao and sighed lightly. Although the manor lord had said that guess, and it was also somewhat biased, but this time, if the power represented by the evil monarch of Tian Fa was too weak, they still had to consider the bigger picture of the Misty Mansion. At that time, they might have to sacrifice Miao Xiao Miao's love. After all, the happiness of a girl was so insignificant compared to the entire Misty Mansion. Chapter 1062. Three Holy Lands? Miao Xiao Miao nodded and suddenly giggled. The three Holy Lands that were forced to the point of not being able to retaliate by that evil monarch? I've always heard that the three Holy Lands are on par with our Misty Mansion, but from the looks of it now... Don't speak like that! Miao Zhan stopped Miao Xiao Miao solemnly. His tone was unusually stern as he said, the three Holy Lands have never been simple. The strongest force behind the three Holy Lands, the Heaven Saint Palace, has never done anything for this matter. In other words, what that Jun Moxie is dealing with is only the external forces of the three Holy Lands. Without considering the strength of the Heaven Saint Palace, the three Holy Lands are indeed not fit to be mentioned in the same breath as our Misty Mansion. But if the Heaven Saint Palace makes a move, even our Misty Mansion will have to go all out to be able to deal with them, not to mention that puny evil monarch. Sixth Grandpa means that the prospects of this evil monarch establishing his own faction is not very optimistic? That rising sun in the sky is merely a bunker on the beach, or perhaps it's just a dream. Miao Xiao Miao blinked her eyes and asked with a smile. That's roughly what I mean, N. So you're trying to get information out of this old man. Miao Zhan smiled helplessly. AI, there's no outsider here, so I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. This old man really doesn't think very highly of this newly risen evil monarch. If the evil monarch only wants to establish his own faction and slowly develop it for fun, as long as he doesn't reveal too much ambition or strength, then he can still maintain it for a few years. But if the Heaven Saint Palace revealed any intention of contending with the three Holy Lands, or if they harmed the interests of the three Holy Lands, the moment the three Holy Lands were unable to deal with it on their own, the Heaven Saint Palace would definitely not stand idly by. At that time, the one who will be out of luck will only be that evil monarch manor. In the Heaven Saint Palace, there are at least 50 Saint Venerable experts, and many of them have even broken through to the Saint Venerable level, or even to a higher level. Miao Dao sighed as he spoke. Since the three Holy Lands have such a strong foundation, and we are basically confirmed allies, then, Grandpa Meow, why are you still sighing? Meow Xiao Meow sensitively felt that when Meow Dao sighed, he glanced at her. Why? It's all because of you, lass. Meow Dao thought helplessly, but he said, when two tigers fight, one is bound to get hurt. And now, it just so happened that the war for seizing the heavens was at a delicate juncture. Once both sides officially started fighting, the entire world would be thrown into chaos. One had to know that if there were any repercussions from the game between the upper echelons, it would affect the campaigns of the entire secular world. At that time, the common people will be trapped in the chaos of war for thousands of years. And didn't Sixth Grandpa just say that the Heaven Saint Palace's strength is extremely tyrannical? Could it be that this evil monarch really had such strength? Could it be that he actually has the power to destroy the three Holy Lands? Meow Xiao Meow keenly captured this point from Meow Dao's words. She suddenly felt a little shocked. Because Meow Dao had just said, the moment the evil monarch shows that he wants to fight against the three Holy Lands, or harm the interests of the three Holy Lands, the moment the three Holy Lands are unable to deal with him alone, the Heaven Saint Palace will interfere. This meant that the three Holy Lands no longer had the confidence to defeat the evil monarch alone. Only the hidden experts of the Heaven Saint Palace would be able to suppress the evil monarch. That's right. Miao Jian nodded his head heavily. If the evil monarch really thinks this way, he can really do it, but even if he does it, he will not be able to avoid the fate of being destroyed by the Heaven Saint Palace. As long as these two sides start fighting, it will be a situation where both sides lose. There is no need to doubt this. Meow Xiao Meow widened her eyes in shock. But didn't the rumors say that the evil monarch, Tianxiang Jun Moxie, isn't he only in his 20s? He's so young, could it be that he's actually so powerful? How is this possible? To be more accurate, that evil monarch should only be 18.5 years old. He's not even 19 yet. The one who said this was the second in command of the Zhan family, Zhan Wu Feng. Seeing the commotion here, he also brought his grandson, Zhan Yu Ting, over and finished the sentence that Meow Xiao Meow had just said. 18.5 years old. Meow Xiao Meow sucked in a breath of cold air. 18.5 years old. This age, he's half a year younger than Junyi, and naturally younger than me. But looking at him, and then looking at myself, Meow Xiao Meow couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. But then, she raised her eyebrows and thought to herself, but no matter how unparalleled your Xian cultivation is, you will never be like my Junyi who knows everything and is an outstanding expert in every aspect. Furthermore, Junyi also has the legendary free and natural physique. If he wants to surpass this evil monarch in terms of Xian cultivation, it's only a matter of time. As long as he has enough time, my Junyi will definitely suppress that whatever evil monarch until he can't even lift his head, Zhan Wu Feng said lightly. This evil monarch can be said to be the #1 genius in this world. How long has it been since the Xian continent was founded? But a genius like this has never appeared before. Even the 9 Nether first young master of that year, although his achievements were unprecedented, it doesn't mean that there won't be someone who can surpass him in the future. Because when he was at his age, he would definitely have the same level of strength as the evil monarch today. If this evil monarch can get through this crisis, he might just become another 9 Nether first young master. Or even stronger. As he said this, he looked at Meow Xiao Meow and smiled faintly. Miss Xiao Meow's husband, that free and natural physique Mo Junyi, young Master Mo, can also be considered as a rare genius in this world. But don't be afraid of not knowing what's good for you, just be afraid of comparing the goods. Although Mo Junyi is also considered rare, but compared to Jun Moxie, the difference is like the difference between heaven and earth. One is like a phoenix soaring through the 9 heavens, while the other is like a chicken whose wings haven't fully grown yet. The Jean family's plan to deal with the free and natural physique Mo Junyi could be said to have failed completely. It was almost a complete wipeout. Not only did they lose two outstanding successors that the family had placed their hopes on, they even lost a venerable expert. Although these people had died for no apparent reason, it was all because of Mo Junyi. The hatred between both sides could not be said to be shallow. Right now there was a rare opportunity to strike back, so how could they not make use of it? Mo Junyi was a very talented genius, but right now there was a great genius that was 1,000,000 times stronger than Mo Junyi. In front of a heaven-defying expert like Jun Moxie, Mo Junyi might be very strong in the future, but right now, he was nothing. What did a mere golden Xian cultivation count for? He was just an ant. Although Zhan Wufeng knew that striking down Mo Junyi in front of Miao Xiaomiao was not something that suited his status, he still couldn't help but say it out loud. Although his tone was gentle and his smile was still on his face, the provocation in his words could not be any more obvious. Who did you say is a phoenix? Who is a chicken? You're the bald chicken. Miao Xiaomiao's face was flushed red with anger, and her voice had also turned sharp. Her eyes shone with a cold light as she glared at this third-level holy emperor expert of the Zhan family. Her gaze was so sharp that even Zhan Wufeng, this holy emperor expert, did not dare to face her directly. Little sister Xiaomiao, just who is the phoenix and who is the chicken? Is there a need to say it out loud? Zhan Yuting waved his fan and said with a smile. As the saying goes, justice is in the hearts of the people. Right now, Jun Moxie's name has already shaken the entire world, looking down on everyone with disdain. And it's with his own hands and feet, practically barehanded, he's able to create this boundless empire. Right now, he's even able to stand on equal footing with the three holy lands of the Xian continent, and even has the upper hand. As for your Mo Junyi, even though he has the free and natural physique, he's still only at the Golden Xian realm. At most, he's a little smart, knows some unorthodox ways, and plays some dirty tricks. I'm afraid he's just like a rat on the street, and he might not even be able to protect himself. Could it be that compared to that Jun Moxie, Mo Junyi is actually a phoenix? You! Miao Xiaomiao was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Suddenly, she thought of something and calmed herself down. Lengling smiled and said, "Third young Master Zhan is right. That Jun Moxie has such strength and achievements at such a young age is indeed rare and commendable. Comparing him to a phoenix of the 9 heavens is also reasonable. As for my Junyi, his wings are indeed not fully grown yet. But, if Junyi is a chicken, then, what about the Zhan family that was suppressed by Junyi alone to the point where they couldn't even speak? An insect that was defeated by his sharp claws? Miao Xiaomiao saw the Zhan family uncle and nephew ridiculing Mo Junyi without restraint. How could she endure it? She retaliated with all sorts of sharp words. Zhan Yuting couldn't help but be taken aback when he heard that. He hadn't expected that the usually gentle Miao Xiaomiao would actually say such words, and in such a decisive manner at that. His face flushed red, and only after a long time did he say, "That's because his luck is good. It just so happened that he was tested on his forte. Otherwise, Mo Junyi would have long been consigned to eternal damnation." "Oh? I wonder why your Zhan family's luck is so bad? Luck is the will of the heavens. Even the heavens do not stand on your Zhan family's side. What extravagant talk about victory and defeat. What phoenix and chicken. A frog at the bottom of a well talking about a heavenly bird, truly ignorant." Miao Xiaomiao's first harsh sentence was spat out, and she no longer had any reservations. Her words were as sharp as knives, extremely sharp. Miao Xiaomiao had always been gentle, and had never been such a sharp person. But this Zhan family's merciless insults towards Mo Junyi had touched on Miao Xiaomiao's reverse scale. Not only were her words not polite, they were also equally merciless. Chapter 1063. Zhan Wu Yun did not expect this little lass to have such a sharp tongue, and every word she said seemed to have a hidden meaning. From her words, it was as if she knew something. He couldn't help but feel a little more fearful. But his worries were groundless. The reason why Miao Xiao Miao said this was completely because she was forced by their words. It was not because she really knew any secrets of the Zhan family. But the moment Zhan Wu Yun heard this, he felt that something was amiss and couldn't help but feel suspicious. Stop arguing. We came here on behalf of the Misty Mansion. Why are we arguing among ourselves? Zhan Wu Yun, you're already a few hundred years old, and you're arguing with a little lass. Do you have any shame? Miao Dao turned around and scolded impatiently. He looked coldly at Zhan Wu Yun, but his protectiveness towards Miao Xiao Miao was clear in his words. Zhan Wu Yun's face turned red and he kept his mouth shut. Miao Zhan and Lengling snorted coldly. He had long found these people from the Zhan family intolerable. Although he had already made up his mind not to let these people return alive, and naturally wouldn't bother with a few people who were about to die, but he still felt that time was passing a little too slowly to let these trash act so arrogantly in front of him. Right now, Miao Zhan was thinking in his heart, should I let these people die in the hands of the evil monarch? Or should I just let them die in my hands? Since they're already destined not to return alive, rather than letting outsiders benefit, I might as well let them benefit myself, lest the reputation of the Misty Mansion be tarnished because of their deaths. Miao Jian heaved a sigh of relief and muttered to himself in confusion. Why haven't the people from the 3 Holy Lands arrived yet? Even if the 3 places are far from each other, it shouldn't be that they haven't arrived yet. Miao Dao smiled lightly. The way the 3 Holy Lands do things has always been explosive, always striking first to gain the initiative, catching the enemy off guard. They should already be nearby. At this point, Miao Dao's expression suddenly darkened. Then, Miao Jian and Miao Zhan's expressions also became solemn. The 3 of them looked towards the dense forest at the same time. There was a powerful aura coming from that direction, and it was coming towards him at an extremely fast speed. Miao Dao shook his head and said gloomily, "It's really uncanny, whoever I say arrives." Miao Jian shook his head and said in a low voice, "The people of the Holy Lands are evil. Speaking of tortoises and turtles appear." Miao Xiao Miao covered her mouth and giggled uncontrollably. Miao Jian's words were really insulting to the extreme. "Brother Miao, you've actually arrived so early. Looks like your Misty Mansion is quite concerned about the matter of the evil monarch this time. We have troubled Brother Miao to wait for so long. It is truly a sin." A clear voice rang out, as if it didn't carry the slightest bit of the mortal world. Following this voice, 6 to 7 white figures floated out from the dense forest. "Brother Gu, why, you've actually come personally this time? Looks like the hermitage has also come prepared." Miao Zhan laughed and quickly walked forward. From the shadows of the road, a total of 7 white figures appeared. 6 men and 1 woman, all dressed in snow-white robes. The 6 men all had gray beards and tall crowns, and their gazes were sharp. The only woman had a picturesque appearance, her beauty indescribable, as if she was an immortal descending to the mortal world. The one in the middle, is he the current sect leader of the Hermitage, Missouri Wudao? Miao Zhan looked at the person in the middle of the 7 white figures with a strange gaze. This person's face was like jade, and his white robes and black hair made him look like he was out of this world, extremely carefree. And the most important thing was that his cultivation was the lowest in this group of 7. It seemed like he was only a 3rd-level venerable. In terms of cultivation, among the people present, he was only slightly stronger than Miao Xiao Miao and Zhan Yu Ting. But every movement he made had a natural and unrestrained aura, with a hint of arrogance and nobility. As for the other 6 people, among the 5 men, 3 of them were Holy Emperor, 2 were Saint Venerables, and the beautiful woman was also a Saint Venerable. Her strength seemed to be the strongest among the group. But when Mo Wudao walked among these people, even though the cultivation of these 6 people was far above his aura was still able to stand out. This was enough to show that this person was not ordinary. This was the demeanor that had been cultivated from commanding people for a long time. As for the others, they did not have this. Mo Wudao's eyes were gentle as he looked at Miao Zhan. He smiled and bowed. This must be the Misty Mansion's Miao Zhan. Senior Miao. This junior Mo Wudao greets senior. His words could be said to be extremely calm. But for some reason, when such calm words came out of his mouth, it gave off a very powerful and sincere feeling. Coupled with his expression and gaze, everyone felt that his greeting came from the bottom of his heart, without the slightest bit of hypocrisy. Miao Zhan stared at him for a while. Mo Wudao returned the smile. Although he did not speak again, his sincere smile and clear eyes made this person seem even more like a modest gentleman, someone worth befriending. Mo Wudao is indeed extraordinary. Miao Zhan sighed slightly. Just based on this demeanor alone, other than Miao Huanyu, it was rare to see anyone else in Misty Mansion who could be so calm. No wonder this person was able to manage Hermitage with the strength of a 3rd-level venerable. Just his scheming and shrewdness alone were already rare. How can this Wudao be worthy of senior's praise of being extraordinary? I have been busy all these years and my cultivation has not improved at all. I am truly ashamed. In this Empress's trip, Senior Qiao Ying is the leader. This junior is merely here to make up the numbers. Mo Wudao pointed at the only woman in Hermitage's group. That elegant woman was Qiao Ying. Originally, with Qiao Ying's identity and status, there was no need for her to come on this trip. However, Qiao Ying was truly worried about those exquisite lotuses that June Moxie had moved. To Qiao Ying, those exquisite lotuses were like her children. How could she not be worried? She had already taken care of them for several thousand years. This kind of affection was naturally unparalleled. It must be said that Qiao Ying's strength was extremely high and she was the number 1 person in Hermitage's group. However, in terms of ability to deal with matters, it was probably the other way around. However, it was also a fact that her identity was extraordinary. Thus, even though Mo Wudao was the palace master of Hermitage, he did not treat her with the utmost respect. It was just that no one would take it seriously if he said that she was the leader of this trip. Is this Miss Qiao Ying? I've heard a lot about you, Miao Zhan said. Miao Zhan's words came from the bottom of his heart. There was almost no one in Misty Mansion who did not know of Qiao Ying's name. She was the only special existence outside of Misty Mansion who had eaten the 7-colored holy fruit. At the same time, she was also the person who had eaten the exquisite lotuses at the same time, and not just once. Her fortune could be said to be unparalleled in this world. Not only Miao Zhan, the saber and sword brothers, Miao Xiaomiao, and the dozens of people from the Zhan family all had their eyes on Qiao Ying. These people had only heard of her name but had never seen her in person. Today, their horizons were truly broadened. Although Qiao Ying's cultivation was high, her social skills were probably even worse than those ordinary people who did not have any Xian cultivation. Being stared at by so many people, she was at a loss as to what to do, but she did not know what to say. However, Mo Wudao sighed and said, "Today, I've seen the elegance of all the seniors here. The reputation of Misty Mansion is not just for show. This makes Wu Dao feel even more ashamed." As he said that, he shook his head. His face had a faint look of disappointment and hope, as well as a flash of shame. Although it was just a flash, everyone could see it clearly. This also made them believe that this person admitted his shortcomings frankly, and did not exaggerate at all. He was indeed a trustworthy person. With just this one sentence, he had already saved Qiao Ying from the awkward situation, and he had even praised the people from Misty Mansion. He was really smooth and slick. The sacred ground controls the world and controls the secular world. If not for Palace Master Mo, who is in charge of Hermitage, how would those old fellows have the time to cultivate? Miao Zhan smiled and said, although Palace Master Mo's cultivation has been hindered, he is doing it for the benefit of the world. His contributions are for the current generation and the benefits for the future generations. This old man and the others can't help but feel deep respect for someone like Palace Master. Even if his cultivation is slightly weaker, so what? It could be seen that Miao Zhan's impression of Mo Wudao was quite good. Facing such a person, it was indeed difficult for people to feel bad. Mo Wudao smiled in a carefree manner and said, how could Wu Dao not understand this logic? It's just that, everyone knows this logic, and Wu Dao is no exception. I can't help but feel a little disappointed in my heart. Wu Dao's childish behavior today has made Senior laugh at me. As they spoke, the two sides had already walked together harmoniously. They walked towards the tent that had been set up earlier. As for the three holy emperors who came with Hermitage, they quickly set up their own tent next to the tent of Misty Mansion. Although the three of them were experts of the Holy Emperor, they were really nothing compared to Miao Zhan and Xiao Ying. Everyone exchanged greetings as they entered the tent and sat down. Although Mo Wudao was a junior, his identity was still the current sect master of Hermitage. At the same time, he was also the one with the most authority in this group, so he naturally sat at the head of the table. Only when Mo Wudao was seated did Xiao Ying, who was the head in name, take the second seat. Haha, I wonder what seniors of the Misty Illusory Manor think of the evil monarch's opening ceremony this time? Mo Wudao smiled lightly, a humble expression on his face as he asked calmly. The moment he said this, Miao Dao, Miao Jian, Miao Zhan, and Zhan Wufeng all felt at the same time. With just a few words of greetings, Mo Wudao had already used his unique charm and words to successfully control the topic of conversation. This kid was indeed impressive. His question was, what is your opinion of the evil monarch's opening ceremony? This question didn't seem like anything much at first glance. It was just a very ordinary question, but it had caused everyone's thoughts to be limited to this circle. As long as you want to speak, you must first answer this question of his. And this question might seem like a very ordinary question, but there was a hidden sharpness in it. And the target was precisely the evil monarch. Miao Dao and the others all knew that with this sentence of Mo Wudao's, if they couldn't come up with a strong topic to change the current situation, the entire conversation would be dominated by Mo Wudao, and it would tilt towards the evil monarch's side. And this sort of situation, to the people of Misty Mansion who had already made up their minds to watch from the sidelines, was the most unpleasant situation. Chapter 1064. But I wonder what Palace Lord Mo thinks. Miao Zhan chuckled. Our Misty Mansion belongs to the outside world, and we can only look at the Xian continent from afar. Our understanding of the evil monarch is really not much. Palace Lord Mo, you can take out your own thoughts and Hermitage's strategy for us to consult. How about that? Mo Wudao smiled bitterly. Senior Miao is really amazing. With just a sentence you push the problem back to the younger generation. Haha, but regarding this matter, I have nothing to say. This is not Wu Dao's excuse, but because Wu Dao's younger brother, Xiao Yao, died tragically in the hands of the evil monarch Jun Moxie. This hatred is as deep as the mountains and as deep as the seas. So, no matter what Wu Dao says, it will inevitably be biased and unfair. He furrowed his brows as if he was in a difficult position. If seniors have any advice, that would be for the best. If seniors are still unable to come to a decision, then wait for Brother Shirua Chun of the Golden City and Brother Huyen Ao Bo of the Blood Sea to arrive, and everyone can come up with a plan. Miao Zhan smiled noncommittally and said, Palace Lord Mo has spoken the thoughts in his heart, which is enough to show his sincerity. However, it must have been tough for everyone to come all the way here, so you should rest first. This matter is not urgent. There are still 7 to 8 days until the 15th. We have enough time to brainstorm and come up with a perfect plan. Mo Wudao's sharp eyes flashed, and he smiled sincerely. If that's the case, thank you for your concern, Senior. The Miao family returned to their tents with furrowed brows. Zhang Wuyun walked in and sat down. How is Mo Wudao? Miao Zhan looked at everyone and asked with a frown. Mo Wudao, this person, must be analyzed carefully. If we can analyze that Mo Wudao thoroughly, I believe it will be equivalent to analyzing half of Jun Moxie. Mo Wudao held the leading position in the 3 Holy Lands. If they were to cooperate with the 3 Holy Lands in the future, they would have a higher chance of success. And from him we can deduce Jun Moxie's characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses. That is our current goal. If the 3 Holy Lands are really defeated, cooperating with the evil monarch is also indispensable. This is also what the mansion master solemnly instructed us to do before we came here. We must do it, and we must do it well. Miao Zhan's words were very serious and cautious, especially when he said, the 3 Holy Lands have really fallen. It was obvious that he hesitated for a moment, but he still said it. However, the word decline seemed to be exceptionally difficult to say. It seemed that in the eyes of this peak expert from the Misty Mansion, although the defeat of the 3 Holy Lands at the hands of the evil monarch seemed absurd, it was not impossible. Once this sentence was said, everyone fell into deep thought. Everyone understood very well what Miao Zhan's words meant. Just now they had interacted with Mo Wudao for a while, and they did not even say a few substantive words before they parted ways. Until now, the few words that Miao Zhan and Mo Wudao said to each other could still be easily repeated by everyone. Just a few polite words. From the beginning to the end, it was just polite words. But Miao Zhan wanted to dig out valuable information from these few polite words. From this, he wanted to analyze Mo Wudao thoroughly. Such a request could not be said to be low. Even Miao Xiaomiao was startled. In her view, from the harmonious exchange between the 2 parties, she thought that this 6th grandfather had a good impression of the palace master of Hermitage, and even felt like old friends at first sight. Who knew that he would dissect the palace master's mind the moment he turned around? The world of adults was really incomprehensible. Mo Wudao, this person. Mo Wudao, this person. Miao Dao furrowed his brows, thinking hard. He and Miao Jian were both assassins and butchers, so they weren't very good at this kind of scheming. After muttering for a long time, he finally said, I don't know why, but I just don't like this person. He held it in for a long time, and only managed to squeeze out this sentence. Miao Zhan was speechless. What nonsense is this? Who cares if you like him or not? They only want to ask you why. The most important thing is that you don't even know. Miao Jian nodded his head, expressing his heartfelt agreement with his elder brother's words. Miao Xiaomiao burst out into laughter. Wu Feng should say it first. Miao Zhan sighed. This was also the main reason why he called Zhan Wu Feng over, and also the only use of Zhan Wu Feng in this operation. Only someone like him, who was used to playing with schemes, was a first-rate expert in analyzing this. Letting him do the analysis was like making the best use of a person's talent. Mo Wudao. Zhan Wu Feng sucked in a deep breath and tried his best to recall everything that had happened earlier. He said slowly, this person has the demeanor of a leader and is also very amiable. When people are around him, they would unconsciously feel a sense of harmony, as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. And there's another point. Be it his speech or his actions, it shows that this person is very cultured and has a great demeanor. When he speaks, he always looks straight into the other party's eyes, and his gaze is very sincere, showing great sincerity. Especially when it comes to the way you speak, you should have gone through strict training. You should even know which word to say with more emphasis, which sentence to say with deliberate hesitation, which sentence to say at a specific time, and which tone to use when to say a word, all of them are exactly the same. Zhan Wuyun said solemnly. This is something that only aristocratic families need to train in, but ordinary aristocratic families will not be able to reach this level. Without the painstaking accumulation of several generations, they might not even be able to produce such a person. But Mo Wudao has reached the point of perfection, and can be said to be an expert amongst experts in this field, truly impressive. A look of sincere admiration appeared in Miao Zhan's eyes. This Zhan Wu Feng's analysis started from the outermost layer, dissecting Mo Wudao. He did not directly say what this person was like, but through his words, he outlined Mo Wudao's attitude and temperament. No wonder this person is known as the number 2 person in the Zhan family. He is indeed extraordinary. There's another point that is also very important. Mo Wudao's control over the delicate situation is very outstanding. Every time he takes the lead in a conversation, it is actually him who uses the subtle changes in the conversation to forcefully seize control of the conversation. But it also makes others feel that it is unassailable. If not for the fact that he reflects on it, he might not have been able to realize this. Zhan Wufeng raised his head and closed his eyes, carefully recalling all the scenes from before. However, he was still speaking slowly. In fact, from the very first sentence, he had already revealed his intense hatred towards the evil monarch. But he did not say it himself. He wanted others to go along with his words. If it was any ordinary person, they would probably really fall for his tricks. Then, when he saw Sixth Uncle's rejection, as if he felt that the matter could not be done, he immediately retreated. But instead, he changed to a strategy of advancing by retreating. He took the initiative to say that his younger brother had died in the hands of Jun Moxie, and that he should avoid arousing suspicion. Otherwise, his words would be unfair, making us feel that he is frank and honest, and would not ignore the public for personal reasons. This way, he would fight for our good impression and approval. Zhan Wufeng was a generation younger than Miao Zhan and Miao Dao, so he called him Sixth Uncle. By saying this, firstly, it would let us understand that there is an irreconcilable hatred between the two families. Secondly, it would also display his impartiality and strictness at the highest level, meticulous, a heroic image of a cool breeze and bright moon, causing others to feel deep veneration for him. Everyone who heard his words would think this way. His own younger brother was killed by this person. But he is still able to abide by the principle of fairness. This person is truly a kind and benevolent elder, worthy of respect. And by saying this, although it shows that he is upholding the fairness, it is also the greatest injustice to himself. Because we will think, Mo Wudao is so righteous, but Jun Moxie still killed his younger brother. Then, Jun Moxie is really in the wrong. And even until now, the hatred between both sides has not been resolved. Is this Jun Moxie a great demon? What kind of heinous crime is he? So, although Mo Wudao clearly expressed that he was retreating, in reality, he had taken the greatest step forward. And at this step, if we can't analyze it to this point, I'm afraid that in the following period of time, we will unconsciously form a prejudice against Jun Moxie, or even a fixed view of him. From then on, when we come into contact with Jun Moxie, we will unconsciously drift apart. So much so that we don't even need to work together, just a glance is enough. And for Jun Moxie to be able to reach this step today, how could he be someone easy to deal with? Just a glance and an action is enough for him to be on guard. As long as he is on guard, in this sensitive period, his subconscious will most likely treat the Misty Mansion as an imaginary enemy. As long as the 3 Holy Lands add fuel to the fire, even if we don't want to be enemies with them, I'm afraid it will not be possible. So, saying that all of this is part of Mo Wudao's plan is definitely not an exaggeration. With just a few words, he has created a strong opponent for Jun Moxie, and at the same time, he has pulled a firm ally for the three Holy Lands. Because this person, June Moxie, according to the intelligence, has a very unbridled personality. This person has never cared who his enemies are, and has never been afraid. When it's time to strike, even if it's the Emperor of Heaven, he will still stab them with a knife. He even dares to openly provoke the three Holy Lands. That means that he does not necessarily care about the Misty Mansion. At most, he just doesn't want to face another strong enemy while facing the three Holy Lands at the same time. So the moment we hear Mo Wudao's words, even if it's just a little bit, it is already destined that we cannot avoid going against the evil monarch. Because this is probably the only weakness of a person like June Moxie that can be exploited by his opponents. To magnify the greatest weakness of an enemy and make use of it, Mo Wudao's schemes are truly impressive. Zhan Wuyun let out a long breath. He was a little thirsty from speaking so much. Looking around, he found a teacup and poured himself a cup of hot water, drinking it in one gulp. Wiping his mouth, he continued. So, sixth uncle, Wu Feng personally thinks that this person, Mo Wudao, is very sinister. He wants to make use of us. There is no longer any doubt about this. Zhan Wu Feng's words, from the inside to the outside, were very detailed and logical. His analysis could be said to be very thorough. But Miao Dao, Miao Jian, Miao Zhan, and Miao Xiaomiao were all stunned when they heard this. Because whether or not Zhan Wu Feng's analysis was reasonable could be put aside for now. The premise of his words was very clear. That was, his position was firmly on June Moxie's side. Unwavering. Chapter 1065. From the looks of it, this Zhan Wu Feng and June Moxie had never met before. Although his analysis was very logical and accurate, it was equivalent to putting in a good word for June Moxie. Why would they have such a relationship? Miao Zhan furrowed his brows and thought carefully for a long time before he finally understood. And because he understood, he suddenly let out a strange "piu" sound and started coughing even more violently. He coughed so hard that his entire body was trembling, and his face was completely red as he nearly fainted. How could a holy venerate suddenly cough to such an extent? Because Zhan Wu Feng's method was to attack the Miao family. Because the Miao family had a son-in-law whose potential was unparalleled in the entire Misty Mansion. His future potential was limitless, and he had the legendary free and natural physique. And this son-in-law, if nothing unexpected happened, once he truly matured, he would be able to lay down a great foundation for the Miao family. And this was something that the Zhan family could not allow. So Zhan Wu Feng was going to use June Moxie to go against the great prodigy Mo. Using June Moxie to completely suppress Mo Junyi. Because in this world, only June Moxie alone could possibly match up to Mo Junyi. And he could definitely win. There was absolutely no third youth that could be mentioned in the same breath as these two youths. From this, it could be seen that the Misty Mansion had come here to be fair. They would only place their bets after looking at the situation to ensure that nothing went wrong. But this time, the Zhan family also had their own plans. Before coming here, the Zhan family had already come up with a comprehensive plan. This time, the Zhan family was going to cooperate with June Moxie. Miao Zhan's guess was right. This was the best plan that the entire Zhan family had come up with. And it was also Zhan Wu Feng's ultimate goal in coming to the Xian continent. She would do her best to win over June Moxie at all costs. If they were to cooperate fully with June Moxie, it would definitely be beneficial for the Zhan family. If June Moxie was really strong and succeeded in destroying the Holy Lands, then the Zhan family's status in the Misty Mansion would also rise. It was very likely that they would use this opportunity to suppress the Miao family in one fell swoop. The reason was self-evident. The entire Xian continent had fallen into the hands of the Zhan family's loyal ally June Moxie. Even the Misty Mansion had no choice but to submit to him. After all, the Misty Mansion needed to import resources from the Xian continent to maintain the livelihood of the Misty Mansion. As the first powerful ally of Jun Moxie, it would be inconceivable if the Zhan family did not benefit from this. Even if the evil monarch, Jun Moxie, was defeated, the Zhan family would still use all their strength to prevent Jun Moxie from dying. Then they would invite him into the Misty Mansion. Then, the Zhan family would have another unparalleled expert, and one that had already matured, and his aptitude far surpassed the free and natural physique, a peerless genius. Then, the Zhan family would also be able to command the winds and clouds in the Misty Mansion. At most, they would have to stand up against the 3 Holy Lands and pursue the matter. But in the end, the advantages would still far outweigh the disadvantages. Even if Jun Moxie was only dealing with the Miao family to repay the Zhan family for saving his life, this was still a great opportunity for the Zhan family. After all, if Jun Moxie went to the Misty Mansion, then Jun Moxie and Mo Jun Yi would represent the future of the entire Misty Mansion. The strategy that the Zhan family had come up with was not bad. Even the most strict person would not be able to pick out any loopholes. However, all of this was built on a very simple premise. This very simple premise was, as long as Jun Moxie and Mo Jun Yi were 2 different people, it was that simple. As long as they were not the same person, then the Zhan family had a strategy that had no loopholes, and the chances of success were very high. It was easy to add flowers to a brocade, but difficult to send charcoal in snowy weather. Under the pressure of the 3 Holy Lands, the support from the Zhan family was definitely a timely help. No matter how heartless Jun Moxie was, facing such a huge favor, he would definitely be moved to tears. After all, when one's Xian cultivation reached the level of Jun Moxie, it was not easy for him to die. No matter how dangerous the situation was in the future, as long as he could hold on for a while, the Zhan family would be able to save him. And with Jun Moxie's current strength, no matter what kind of enemy he met, even if he met the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters alone, he would definitely be able to hold on for a while. The Zhan family's investment would definitely be worth it, and the returns would far exceed their expectations. The Zhan family's plan was not bad at all. Furthermore, after the failure of a plan that had lasted for thousands of years, they were still able to come up with a plan that was not inferior to the previous one. The Zhan family's talents were not few. Her scheming was even more exquisite, but the world was just that mysterious. A very simple premise was not necessarily that simple. It was a pity that the target of the plan, Jun Moxie, and the thorn in the Zhan family's side, Mo Jun Yi, were the same person. Jun Moxie was Mo Jun Yi, the genius son-in-law of the Miao family. So no matter how detailed and flawless the Zhan family's plan was, in the end, it would only be a joke. It was a joke to make a wedding dress for others, and it was very likely that he was the one who caused the destruction of his own family. Such a huge joke. After giving everything they had, they realized that they had been using all their strength to dig their own grave. And when they were done, they brought their entire family and fell into the grave. This kind of thing, would it be an eternally strange story? But it was also because of this that Miao Zhan, who had completely figured everything out, began to cough violently. This was an king drama, right? Could there really be no stories without coincidences? In this world, there was actually such an ironic thing? Looks like this Zhan family's luck had really come to an end. I wonder how they calculated such a huge and intricate plan to dig their own grave. This is really king genius a whole family full of geniuses Sixth grandfather, what's wrong with you? Are you all right? Miao Xiao Miao was shocked. A saint venerable expert suddenly coughing like this. This was not something that would happen even to a silver Xian expert. I'm fine. Sigh. Miao Zhan finally stopped coughing and tried his best to make his expression look a little disappointed. He said gloomily, "This old man was really too shocked just now. Wu Feng's analysis makes a lot of sense. This old man had already tried his best to imagine Mo Wu Dao as terrifying as possible, but I didn't think it through to such an extent. Looks like there are really many capable people in this world. This old man is indeed old. Zhan Wu Feng chuckled and said respectfully, "Why would sixth uncle say such a thing? You are indeed old but vigorous. Even if there were some carelessness, it is because you are an honest person and never treat others with scheming thoughts. It is only right and proper for this nephew to share your burdens." "I'm old, I'm really old." Miao Zhan shook his head and sighed. "Then, since we've already seen through Mo Wudao's plot, what should we do on the day of the opening ceremony?" Miao Dao asked. "Nothing much, we'll stick to the original plan and deal with all changes by remaining unchanged. Also, we need to be more careful in the future." Miao Zhan let out a long sigh. "No matter what kind of schemes Mo Wudao uses, we still need to bet on the right treasure. What we want is not a short-term profit, but a partner that will last for thousands of years. Even if his schemes are deep, as long as we completely ignore them, it doesn't matter anymore." Zhan Wu Feng smiled in relief. "Sixth uncle is wise and decisive. Dealing with all changes by remaining unchanged is the most suitable method for the current situation." He was not worried that the Misty Mansion would change its decision, because the decision of the Misty Mansion had to be made for the entire Misty Mansion. And the Zhan family was able to execute their strategy on the basis that the Miao family had to take responsibility for the entire Misty Mansion. If the Misty Mansion was gone and collapsed, then even if the Zhan family monopolized the Misty Mansion, what meaning was there? From this point of view, it was not wrong to say that the Zhan family was the biggest parasite of the Misty Mansion. But the more Miao Xiaomiao listened, the more astonished she became. She could not help but ask, "That Jun Moxie, what kind of person is he?" The more she listened, the more shocked she was. Because these few people present were all important figures of the Misty Mansion. But whether it was the Zhan family or the Miao family, they all gave Jun Moxie a very high evaluation. A very high evaluation. In all these years, this was the first time that Miao Xiaomiao saw the Miao family and the Zhan family come to an agreement on a certain matter. And all of this was because of that evil monarch. "Jun Moxie, you should ask Mo Wudao about this tomorrow. Perhaps tomorrow, when all the people from the 3 Holy Lands arrive, you should be able to understand more. The information that we have now is still rather one-sided." Miao Zhan looked at Miao Xiaomiao meaningfully. His words were somewhat meaningful. No matter how Miao Xiaomiao listened, she felt that this sixth grandpa's voice was a little strange. But she could not figure out what was strange about it. On that very night, the people from the illusory Blood Sea and the Supreme Golden City also arrived. As the experts of the misty illusory manor had expected, these 2 holy lands also had 2 leaders personally leading the way. Just based on the identity of the people who came, the 3 holy lands could be said to have given the evil monarch enough face this time. The leaders of the 3 holy lands had personally come to congratulate him. This kind of grandeur, from the ancient times until now, the only time such a grand scene had appeared was when the Misty Mansion opened its doors, and it had already been almost 10,000 years since then. However, these 2 times were like history repeating itself. There were shocking coincidences and similarities. At that time, the 3 Holy Lands were also somewhat unwilling to allow the misty illusory manor to become independent and went to congratulate them. Their enmity was also very deep, and if it wasn't for the relationship between Miao Qingqing and his senior brothers, they would have already fought to the death, with the fish dying while the net splits, and this time, judging from the current situation, it was actually not much different from the previous time. Similarly, danger lurked in the shadows. The moment there was any movement, it would be a reign of terror. The Supreme Golden Cities, Shi Ruochen, had also brought 6 experts with him. Illusory Blood Sea's Huyan Ao Bo's side was naturally the same. With a single look, it was obvious that the three sides had agreed on this. Even their lineup was the same. Another common characteristic was that these people all had gloomy expressions on their faces. Early in the morning, everyone gathered together. After exchanging some pleasantries, they prepared to discuss how to deal with this matter. Miao Xiao Miao was still young and could not keep her cool. She asked again, "This Jun Moxie, what kind of person is he?" Miao Xiao Miao was really very persistent on this question. Chapter 1066. How is my Jun Yi worse than that Jun Moxie? But why isn't he given such a high evaluation? This is too unfair. Why should I do it? What's so good about this Jun Moxie? My Jun Yi is a genius with the legendary free and natural physique. Even if his cultivation is a little weak now, he will definitely become immeasurable in the future. Jun Moxie. The three leaders of the three holy lands and the 18 experts beside them all changed their expressions at the mention of this name. Their expressions became heavy, and they were even a little fearful. This person is really hard to say. Shi Ruochen took a deep breath. At the same time, he took out a thick stack of documents from his sleeves. There were more than 10 pages of them. These are all the information we've collected about Jun Moxie in the past year. Moreover, they've been overthrown, deduced, and researched countless times. If all the information is put together, I'm afraid this big tent will be filled. These are just a small part of it. In fact, our three holy lands have analyzed Jun Moxie, and the results of our analysis are as different as day and night. Huyen Aobo also sighed. He also took out a stack of documents. Mo Wudao smiled bitterly and also took out a few pages of papers. How is this possible? Wasn't he just a teenager as well? Why is it so complicated? This time, not only Miao Xiao Miao was surprised, even Miao Dao and the others were a little surprised. Mo Wudao frowned slightly, making his handsome face look even more worried. He said slowly, Jun Moxie, male, 19 years old this year. From Tianxiang Empire, grandfather Jun Zhan Tian, father Jun Wu Hui, mother Dongfang family, Dongfang Wenxin. He had actually read out the names of everyone in Jun Moxie's family, and had even introduced them in a serious manner. It was so detailed that even Ku was not left out. Moreover, Jun Moxie's attitude towards everyone was also described in detail. No. Palace Head Mo, why is the difference between this person and before so great? Miao Dao frowned. This is also what we don't understand the most. Mo Wudao smiled bitterly. Jun Moxie had started to run amok since he was 12 years old. He had once gone to a brothel in Tianxiang with a few friends of scoundrels. Because he was even more unreasonable afterwards. He didn't pay for the services, and beat the prostitute half to death. The owner of the brothel came forward to stop him, but Jun Moxie smashed the entire brothel to pieces. Ah! Miao Xiao Miao exclaimed in shock. Who would have thought that this evil monarch was actually so despicable in the past? This lowly and despicable person actually had the cheek to compare himself to my Jun Mo Wudao side as he spoke till here. We've done our own analysis on this matter. Whether it was a cover-up or just purely the actions of a spoiled brat, there are many different opinions, and no conclusion has been reached. Miao Xiao Miao was even more shocked. Just this still needs to be analyzed? When Jun Moxie was 12.5 years old, he galloped wildly on the streets of Tianxiang City, trampling over 7 pedestrians and crippling 3 of them. When he returned home, his grandfather Jun Zhan Tian was furious and beat him up, and it is said that he almost broke his leg. There are also a lot of suspicious points about this matter. With Jun Moxie's current level of cultivation, he must have already started cultivating at that time. How could such a cultivator's leg be broken so easily? But it is said that there are records of this matter in the medical center of Tianxiang City, and the imperial doctor had also gone there, but it doesn't seem to be fake. If he had started to disguise himself from that time, then. This is something worth thinking about, Shi Ruochen said. When Jun Moxie was 12 years old, he fancied a commoner girl on the streets, so he beat her parents and took her back home. Fortunately, his grandfather Jun Zhantian stopped him in time and beat him up again. After that, the girl was returned to her original home, and some compensation was given. Mo Wudao took a deep breath and said, "Some time ago, we found that the girl was already married and had a child," and Mo Wudao coughed twice and said with some embarrassment, "When this girl was married, she was still a virgin." Miao Xiao Miao's face turned red, and revealed a sincere look of disdain. "This Jun Moxie is a scum. I actually wanted to compare him with Jun Yi. I have blasphemed against Jun Yi. This matter is really puzzling." Mo Wudao frowned and continued, "Since she was taken back home, how could Jun Zhantian save her in time? You must know, that matter doesn't take too long, so how could she still be pure?" Qiao Ying and Miao Xiao Miao both snorted at the same time, and turned their faces to the side, their faces red. What these people didn't know was that these things that they couldn't understand were all done by the original Jun Moxie before Jun Moxie had transmigrated. That guy was originally a lawless person, simply raping and pillaging, and committing all sorts of crimes. The first time he went to a brothel, he thought that he would be able to get himself a courtesan, and it should be very satisfying. It said that a man's first time also hurts. Because it hurts. Naturally, it's uncomfortable cough, so he was definitely not happy in his heart, so how could he be willing to pay? Destroying the brothel and so on was naturally to vent his anger. As for kidnapping a commoner, it was because he failed the last time, so he wanted to try again. But just as he snatched her back, he was dragged away by Fatty Tang for a drink, and when he returned drunk, he was already released by Grandpa Jun. It was that simple, but the investigation of the 3 Holy Lands was endless and detailed, and they sought evidence from all aspects. Why did it happen back then? What was the reason behind it? Or was it because of his cultivation technique? Or was it because of some other reason? After all, wasn't the person who ran amok back then this world-famous evil monarch? The biggest problem now was, who would believe that a person like the evil monarch would actually do such a thing? If there was no other reason, these experts would never believe it even if they broke their heads. Experts naturally had their own pride. Such a lousy thing was probably not something that anyone would do. But this Lord Evil Monarch did it, and he did it more than once. It was simply endless, and he was in high spirits, from the age of 12 all the way to the age of 17, similar things like this happened endlessly, and he never got tired of it. It filled up the entire journey of his life, and it made one's hair stand on end. Looking at it made one's scalp go numb, and a chill ran down one's spine. Thus, the experts of the 3 Holy Lands were all in a daze. Fighting for Jun Moxie and getting beaten up instead, Jun Moxie visiting a prostitute, Jun Moxie kidnapping a commoner, Jun Moxie reneging on his gambling debts and extorting money instead. All sorts of things like this caused everyone's heads to explode, and they could not understand it no matter how much they thought about it. The entire intelligence department of the 3 Holy Lands had almost gone crazy from analyzing Jun Moxie's past, and they were also nearly driven crazy by the higher UPS. How could there be such a person in this world? This was really King incomprehensible. Everything seemed to be shrouded in a dense fog. The original Jun Moxie and the current Jun Moxie were 2 completely different people, 2 completely different personalities. How could there be anything in common between them? The actions of a profligate young master, and they had to use the level of an unparalleled expert to explain, understand and research, and they even had to find a reason for it. If they could find a reason for it, then it would really be strange. Was there a reason for it to be possessed by sperm? Was there a reason for losing a gamble? Was there a reason for being unable to win and being beaten instead? As for suddenly being in a bad mood while walking on the road and grabbing someone to kick, was there a reason? But all of this could not be blamed on them. A peak expert, even if they were the reincarnation of a holy infant and had been nurtured and cultivated since the womb, would not be able to reach the level of a saint at the age of 19. At most, reaching the venerable realm was already not bad. And this was even with the help of all the top-grade spirit medicines in this world, but the current June Moxie had clearly surpassed the Holy Emperor. Under his hands, the Holy Emperor did not even have the strength to retaliate. Who would believe that such an achievement could reach such a level in just 1 year? 1 year, how short a period of time was that? In the words of an expert, Motherf *Ker, a year had actually passed in such a short time. Moreover, the most incomprehensible thing is, from the records of the past, this June Moxie was simply a perverted demon. But the fact is that the few women who have been following him since this year are all peerless beauties. Moreover, every single one of them is still a virgin. This is especially incomprehensible. Huyen Aobo shook his head, as if he was extremely surprised that June Moxie had allowed his women to remain virgins. It was as if June Moxie should have bitten them, acted like a hoodlum, and slept with them shamelessly. Actually, how could June Dashao not have the same thoughts as Huyen Aobo? But the problem was that he did not have the strength to do so. Under the leadership of Mei Shuiyan, the women in his family were attacking him forcefully. He, who was in a weak position, could only endure until he could no longer endure. Palace Lord Huyen. Qiao Ying's face was red as she scolded. This illusory ocean of blood's sect lord really had no control over his mouth. These kinds of words, it's fine if you men discuss it amongst yourselves, but to actually say it out loud in front of us two women, this is too. Ugh, I'm sorry. Huyen Aobo stared at her blankly, sweat dripping down his face. His purplish-red face had actually turned black. He might not care about the others, but this Qiao Ying was an important figure in the Heaven Saint Palace, and Huyen Aobo knew that he could not afford to offend her. This June Moxie is actually such a person? Miao Xiao Miao almost wanted to cover her ears and not listen anymore. What were these experts from the Holy Lands analyzing? Was this a meeting of the 4 great experts from the Holy Land's Misty Mansion, or a gathering of a group of hoodlums? Wasn't this too ridiculous? Chapter 1067. These are mostly the actions of the past June Moxie. Then what about the current evil monarch? Miao Xiao Miao asked. The current June Moxie, although he no longer seems to be lingering in the brothels, but he is still evil, still a hoodlum, still a scoundrel, and his words are filled with filth, without the demeanor of a young master of an aristocratic family. Mo Wudao sighed. But this person is decisive in killing, rebellious, audacious, vicious and merciless. Miao Xiao Miao only felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Looking at Mo Wudao, she felt that this Hermitage Palace lord was a lunatic. Was the person from yesterday really the same person from today? It couldn't be someone else in disguise, right? A person who is evil, still a hoodlum, still a scoundrel, and his words are filled with filth, without the demeanor of a young master of an aristocratic family, can actually be decisive in killing, rebellious, audacious and merciless? Are you King daydreaming? Seniors of the Misty Mansion, Wudao also knows that what I'm saying right now is extremely contradictory, but June Moxie is such a person. Mo Wudao said helplessly. He is like a combination of contradictions. All the extreme opposite things can be perfectly fused on him, and then revealed. He is indeed a freak. But this is the only point that the 3 of us agree on. After saying so much, even Miao Dao, Miao Jian, Miao Zhan and the rest looked at each other, completely at a loss of what to do. The many conjectures they had previously had now become completely devoid of any confidence. This June Moxie, was it really as the Manor Lord said, that elegant, knowledgeable, hard-working, honest, chivalrous, infatuated, Mo Junyi? Why did it sound more and more different? They were simply two extremes. Jun Moxie once used his sharp tongue to make a venerable level expert vomit blood in anger just by scolding someone. Shirua Chen's face was filled with shame. And that venerable belonged to our supreme golden city. Such a shameful thing. If it wasn't in front of our friends from the Misty Mansion, I really wouldn't be willing to say it. Miao Xiao Miao was completely dumbfounded. She couldn't imagine just what kind of heaven-defying and earth-shattering level of scolding was needed to make a venerable level expert spit out blood. And, what if he also started scolding me when I met him that day? Although I also have the strength of a venerable level expert, in terms of temperament, I can't compare to those old experts of the same level. Then how would I be spared? Miao Xiao Miao didn't dare to think about it anymore. He once plotted against the #1 assassin of the Xian continent, Chu Chihuan, causing us 3 holy lands to misjudge him. We besieged Chu Chihuan for nearly half a year, and suffered even more losses. Huyen Ao Bo shook his head repeatedly. Regarding that incident, the 3 holy lands finally understood that they were plotted against by Jun Moxie. Everyone felt extremely ashamed. He once caused the sword peak of the snowy mountain to collapse, and my younger brother died in that battle. Mo Wudao let out a long sigh, his eyes filled with sorrow. He once, as Miao Xiao Miao listened, her shock gradually turned to fear, and from fear to numbness. She was truly shocked too much, a hoodlum, a pervert, a scoundrel. This was the evil monarch whose name shook the world like the sun at high noon. Miao Xiao Miao finally came to a conclusion in her heart. This Jun Moxie was truly a person who deserved to be slashed with 1,000 knives. This kind of person, no matter how outstanding he is, his personality is corrupted. How can he be compared to my Junyi? He's not even fit to carry Junye's shoes. Miao Xiao Miao snorted disdainfully. Suddenly, a sense of pride rose in her heart. In the entire world, only my Junyi is the most perfect. Loyal, gentle and honest, knowledgeable and talented, honest and reliable, chivalrous and gentle, courageous and courageous, infatuated and without regrets. After that, when everyone was discussing the matters of the evil monarch Manor's opening ceremony, Miao Xiao Miao no longer had any interest in listening. Turning around, she walked out of the tent. Facing the rays of the morning sun, she couldn't help but think of her Junyi. Where are you now? Do you miss me? There was a rustling sound beside her, and a white figure gracefully moved out and came to her side. A fragrant and fresh fragrance wafted into her nostrils. Miao Xiao Miao turned around and saw Qiao Ying standing under the rays of the morning sun. Her white robes fluttered in the wind, as if she was about to float away. Only, this fairy-like fairy Qiao Ying's face was shrouded in an unconcealable look of worry. So it's Senior Qiao. Miao Xiao Miao hurriedly greeted. To the people of the Misty Mansion, this Qiao Ying was a legendary figure. Her fame was only below the 9 nether young masters and the others, and Qiao Ying replied lightly and looked at Miao Xiao Miao lovingly. Her eyes were as gentle as water as she reached out to brush away the messy hair by her temples. Miao Xiao Miao only felt a sense of tranquility in her heart. The Qiao Ying in front of her was like her dearest big sister, taking care of her. It's so good to be young. Miss Miao, you must grasp the happiness you have now. Qiao Ying's lips curled into a bitter smile. She seemed to be talking to herself, but also seemed to be talking to Miao Xiao Miao. Her tone was filled with an inexplicable sense of melancholy. When she saw Miao Xiao Miao, it was as if she was looking back at her youth. At that time, she was also like this, filled with longing and curiosity towards everything. Eternal youth was the biggest dream of every woman. But now that she had it, she still had doubts. She had been locked in her youth. It had been, who knew how many years. Was it worth it? As a woman, was it really worth it? Qiao Ying had never thought about this question before. But at this moment, she felt a heartfelt bitterness. When everyone was discussing June Moxie, she was already a little unwilling. But she, who was used to being alone, didn't say anything and only listened quietly. And, "Thank you for your advice, Senior. I will take it seriously." Meow Xiao Meow smiled sweetly, then asked curiously, "Chiao? Senior, have you seen June Moxie again?" "If you don't mind, you can call me Big Sister Chiao." Chiaoing felt that the way she addressed her was a little unnatural and couldn't help but smile. After so many years of loneliness, her heart was like a volcano erupting, longing for kinship. June Moxie. That young man, I've naturally seen him before. In fact, I've seen him quite a few times. Xiao Ying's expression was a little deep in thought, as if she was recalling something. Is he really that kind of person? Meow Xiao Meow asked. Perhaps. Xiaoying said uncertainly, I don't know if he is, but from the few times I've seen him, although June Moxie is a little frivolous, he's not necessarily heinous. And at this point, Xiaoying wanted to say something but stopped. And what? Meow Xiao Meow asked. I don't know if it's an illusion, but I actually feel that. For us women, June Moxie is a man who is worth relying on. Xiao Ying smiled like a blooming flower. At least, he dares to take responsibility for his actions. Never in her dreams would she have thought that she would hear a completely different answer from the previous one. It was another extremely contradictory answer. Wait until you reach the Tian Fa forest and see him with your own eyes, then you'll have your own understanding. Wait until you see his confidant. Perhaps you'll understand more. Information obtained from a third party's mouth is always not necessarily true. Xiao Ying smiled faintly and slowly sat down on the grass on the ground. She hugged her knees and looked up into the sky, lost in thought. Meow Xiao Meow also sat down with her and remained silent for a long time. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. It was already the 15th of June. Dawn. Dongfang had just shown the first glimmer of light. Suddenly, in the direction of the Tian Fa forest, the heavens and earth shook. It was as if all the mountains and rivers on earth had collapsed at the same time. It was as if all the volcanoes and magma in the world had erupted at the same time. In an instant, the world lost its color. This sudden loud noise caused the people from the 3 holy lands and misty illusory manor, who were about to go to the meeting, to be shocked. Everyone walked out of their tents at the same time, looking towards the southwest direction, the direction of the loud noise. At this moment, they were only 200 li away from the opening of the mansion. With their speed, this distance would only take an hour at most. In the distant horizon, a huge mushroom cloud slowly rose up, slowly rising higher and higher. It looked like it had actually covered the entire blue sky. Following that, the ground beneath their feet shook violently like a sieve. Some fist-sized rocks even directly bounced up from the ground. Some even flew up to a height of several zhang. The 1,000-li dense forest a little further away seemed to be experiencing an unprecedented gale. At the same time, all the trees were bent by the wind. Countless thick branches were also snapped at the waist. The sound of snapping could be heard as they flew far away, disappearing without a trace in an instant. Some small trees were directly uprooted and swept across the sky with the whistling sound of the wind. This was several hundred li away. This kind of power had obviously exceeded the scope of the world's understanding. When this violent gale passed, the original peace and quiet returned. Everyone who witnessed the scene looked at each other in dismay and saw the solemn and shocked expressions on each other's faces. When they looked up again, the huge black cloud that had covered the sky of the Tian Fa forest for a few days had already disappeared without a trace. The sky was filled with a deep blue color. That sudden gust of hurricane actually drove away all the clouds in the sky, leaving no trace behind. There were no clouds for 10,000 li. But looking at the clear and bright sky, and then looking at the desolate forest that had almost become bald in an instant, everyone's heart felt heavy. Which one of the people here wasn't an all-powerful person? As for the so-called grand occasion, even if it was the founding ceremony of a country, he had witnessed it countless times. However, he had never felt like this before. Before he even got close, he could already feel the throbbing from the bottom of his heart. Letting out a long breath, Miao Zhan, whose strength was the most profound among the people here, gradually regained his sharpness. He slowly opened his mouth and said, "Everyone, set off immediately. We must reach Tianfa within 2 hours." 2 hours later, everyone finally arrived on time. Chapter 1068. Second night. Today is the second night. I will make it up to you tomorrow. I was tired yesterday. I am ashamed. This place was the former site of the Shuihun Manor that Li Ju Tian had built. This place was surrounded by mountains, and was backed by the Heavenly Hair Forest. It could be said that this place was a natural danger zone. But now, the mountains, valleys, and forests had disappeared without a trace, except for the 2 door-sized mountains that were located at the periphery of this place. It occupied an area of 10,000 zhang, and there was only a piece of land that seemed to have been cleared out recently. The ground was exceptionally smooth and flat. It seemed that even a fly would sprain its leg if it were to stand on it. And there was an exceptionally magnificent manor in the middle of this place. Oh, it couldn't be called a manor anymore. It was a palace. Moreover, it could be said that it was the most magnificent palace in the whole world. Even the bricks on the walls of this palace were at least 2 feet wide, 10 feet long, and 10 feet thick. He believed that a brick like this would weigh at least tens of thousands of kilograms. Even a saint-level expert wouldn't be able to destroy such a brick easily. Moreover, the walls of this palace were built with these bricks. The height of the walls was at least 10 feet. Moreover, the walls were covered with blue objects that were as thin as hair. They reflected magnificent colors under the sunlight. One could tell at a glance that these objects were extremely sharp. Moreover, they were extremely poisonous. An ordinary person like Tian Xian wouldn't be able to leap over the walls if they were to jump from the ground. So, they would have to stop at the top of the walls to borrow some strength. But they would be sending themselves to the gates of hell if they were to do so. All kinds of colorful flags were stuck around this huge plain. The flagpoles were made from the trunks of towering trees that were over 100 years old. It could be said that they were extremely tough. The flags were dozens of feet in diameter, and were fluttering in the air. There was no need to mention anything else. Just looking at the walls and the flags was enough to make it seem as if it could swallow the rivers and mountains. It seemed as if it was the sole ruler of this world. The mountains and plains were filled with people who were waiting to congratulate the emperor. One could roughly estimate that there were at least 100,000 people. Everyone was staring at the heart-shaking walls, flags, and flat ground. They all had a kind of fear and respect that came from the bottom of their hearts. They were looking up to the high mountains. This evil monarch truly lives up to his name as the rising sun in the sky. How extravagant! Miao Zhan sighed from the bottom of his heart. This is the first time I've seen such a grand occasion in my life. The palace in the distance stood solemnly and steadily. It was at least 100 meters tall, and with a single glance, one would feel an urge to bow down and worship it. He was like a gigantic ancient giant, standing there calmly and solemnly, looking down at all the living beings in the world. Although he didn't speak or move, his aura was enough to dominate the world. The red sun rose. In the early morning of Dongfang, when the first ray of light shone on the castle, there was a sudden loud bang. The 2 copper gates, which were dozens of feet high, suddenly opened. The 2 huge gates slowly opened to the side. Surprisingly, there was not the slightest bit of sound during this process. A look of admiration appeared in the eyes of Miao Zhan and the rest. But just from this small matter, it was easy to see how meticulous this evil monarch Manor's people were. Another sharp sound rang out. It was a flaming rocket whistling into the sky. It exploded in midair. This explosion had officially started the first song of the Evil Monarch Manor's grand opening ceremony. But no one knew that it was also this flaming rocket that had opened the curtains to the unification of the 10,000 years of chaos in the pugilistic world. With a loud cry, thousands of white peak level 9 flying Xian beasts flew up at the same time, soaring hundreds of zhang into the skies. They quickly formed a huge sword in midair, the tip of the sword pointing towards the heavens, while the hilt of the sword was pointing downwards, in the direction of the Evil Monarch Manor. Then, they stopped moving. The thousands of flying Xian beasts all maintained the same motionless state. It was as if the Evil Monarch Manor was an ancient giant wielding a sharp blade that could split the heavens and earth, and with a single slash it had split the entire world. A tsunami of cheers suddenly rang out after a long time. Silence. An indifferent but dignified voice rang out unhurriedly. It did not seem to take much effort, and it was not deafening either. However, amidst the clamor, everyone could hear it clearly. The person who spoke is an expert of the Holy Emperor's level. At least level 3. Mo Wudao looked at Shi Ruochen and said. In fact, the answer was already in Mo Wudao's heart. It was just that he didn't dare to believe it, nor was he willing to believe it. He hoped that he could get a negative answer from his companions. But the answer was destined to disappoint Mo Wudao. Shi Ruochen's expression was solemn, and no one knew what he was thinking. But finally, he nodded slowly. Following that, the authoritative voice rang out again. 15th of June, the Evil Monarch Manor will open. The sun and moon will shine together, and the heavens will bow down to us. Everyone, today is the first time the Evil Monarch Manor will face the world. This will also be the addition of a superpower that can control the winds and clouds of this world. Thank you all for coming to congratulate us. You're really boasting shamelessly and arrogantly. Miao Xiaomiao pursed her lips. She had seen arrogant people before, but she had never seen such an arrogant person. To actually say that they were a superpower that could control the winds and clouds of this world. Not only was he not being humble, he was practically a nouveau riche. There is no need for them to be humble anymore. Mo Wudao smiled lightly. If ordinary superpowers were to be this arrogant, they would immediately incur the wrath of the masses and be destroyed. But the evil monarch must be strong. If we are humble, we will be looked down upon by others. Mo Wudao's mental fortitude was truly impressive. The disappointment he felt just now had instantly recovered, and he was still able to make such an accurate judgment. All the old men present nodded their heads in agreement. Because among the people present, there were superpowers like the 3 Holy Lands. The evil monarch's opening ceremony this time was to announce that he had become one of the top superpowers in the world. The 3 Holy Lands naturally had to come. Although they were here to congratulate him, they did not come with good intentions. So for the MC chosen by the evil monarch to say such a thing, there was no turning back. He definitely could not show weakness. The moment he showed weakness, it meant that the game was already set. If he did not become one of the top superpowers in the world, today's ceremony would become the biggest joke in history. Although the 3 Holy Lands would not choose this time to directly disrupt the ceremony, they would not allow the evil monarch Manor's opening ceremony to be completed smoothly. No matter what they did, they would definitely take action. And the words of this MC represented the entire evil monarch Manor. These two aspects seemed to be completely unrelated, but deep down, they were absolutely opposed to each other. The 3 Holy Lands would definitely make their move, but the evil monarch Manor had displayed an absolutely domineering stance. Then, this also meant that after this MC said those words, the evil monarch Manor had to deal with the conspiracy of the 3 Holy Lands at the first instant and wipe them out in one fell swoop. Only then would they be able to maintain this absolute might. Otherwise, they would not be able to guarantee the success of the opening ceremony. They could only fight with their lives on the line. So although this MC's words seemed like a declaration, and even sounded a little arrogant, it was equivalent to declaring war on the three holy lands in front of all the heroes in the world. No wonder Shi Ruochun and Mo Wudao's faces were so ugly. Miao Zhan and the rest thought about it carefully and roughly understood this logic. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. So that's how it is. Of all the evils in the world, I am the monarch. The might of a monarch cannot be defied. I hereby announce to all the heroes of the pugilistic world, and all my good friends, please leave some face when you come out. Otherwise, when the monarch is enraged, millions of corpses will float, thousands of rivers of blood will flow. The master of ceremonies' voice was dignified and solemn at this moment, but it was accompanied by an unprecedented coldness, calmness, and resolution. Every word he spoke was filled with awe-inspiring killing intent and dense killing intent. Even though it was a joyous speech, it sounded like a bloodbath in his words. In the end, it became a threat. This was basically saying, if you give me face, everyone will have a good time. If you don't give me face, I'll destroy you. As the master of ceremonies' words became more and more domineering, even to the point of being extremely domineering, many people's faces showed anger. Threatening all the heroes of the world on the day of the opening ceremony? Aren't you all thinking too highly of yourselves? No matter how powerful you are, can you really go against the entire world with the power of your evil monarch manner? Do you think you're another nether first young master? Ha 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 ha! In the palace, the solitary eagle was laughing like an eagle that had caught a rabbit. This fellow, Feng Wanyun, being an MC is like AF** King Butcher. He really has his ways. This old man has no choice but to accept it. If this old man were to do this, and I'm afraid even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't be able to do it. I really wouldn't be able to do it. So the arrogant MC for the opening ceremony of the evil monarch manor this time was actually the hurricane sword god, Feng Wanyun. Only this madman, who was as cold as a block of ice, could say such words without a script. Even if he was cut into 1,000 pieces, he would still not be able to vent his hatred. The chatter in the surroundings became more and more chaotic. Just at this time, that infuriating MC finally stopped speaking. Evil monarch, the opening ceremony will now officially begin. Before his words landed, a bright red flag slowly rose from the sky of the castle. Bathing in the sunlight, it was as if a sea of blood had suddenly risen. There was only a single word on the flag, evil. But this word was incomparably huge, and the golden paint on it shone brightly. Even from hundreds of li away, ordinary people would be able to see this word clearly. The moment this flag was raised, the moment this word appeared, an indescribable strange feeling rose in everyone's heart. As expected of the evil monarch, this is really F** King, evil to the extreme. Chapter 1069. It was as if they could suffocate at any moment. They were clearly separated by hundreds of feet or even thousands of feet, but everyone could still clearly feel that piercingly cold, murderous aura. These people were like demons that had suddenly been released from hell. There were clearly only a few hundred of them, and apart from moving their feet, there were no other movements. But they had successfully created a horrifying atmosphere, as if millions of soldiers were engaged in an intense battle. Every single one of these people was a god of death, an absolute god of death. Their clothes were all as white as snow, the only difference being that there were different golden threads embroidered on their sleeve. Some golden threads were thick, some were thin, some were 2, some were 3, but in the middle, there seemed to be small golden swords woven from the golden threads. From the looks of it, this was the special system of the evil monarch manor. There were teams of such people on each side, and there were exactly 149 people in each team. When the last person stepped out of the city gates, they neatly separated to the sides, forming the shape of a goose's wing. At the same time, they opened their mouths and said, "Guests, please enter the city to observe the ceremony." Miao Zhan had been watching from afar with an indifferent expression, but the instant these 298 people appeared, his eyes widened. In the end, his eyes were actually wide open. The expressions of the three Holy Lands sect lords, Mo Wudao, Shi Ruochen, and Huyen Ao Bo, were extremely ugly. What's wrong? Sensing that the atmosphere was not right, Miao Xiao Miao raised her head and asked Miao Dao, "How is this possible? Of the 298 people who formed the welcoming team, even the weakest one has the strength of a third-level saint." Miao Dao also sucked in a breath of cold air, and his voice even trembled slightly. Among them, there are over 70 holy emperor experts, and over 100 of them have the cultivation of a fourth-level saint. This level of strength is simply inconceivable, and these people are actually just people who came out to welcome the guests. F***ck, I'm going crazy. How can something like this happen? If it was just one saint, Miao Dao would naturally not take him seriously. Even if there were 8 or 10 of them, it would not be a problem. However, such people actually formed an army and appeared together. That would make people fearful, even terrifying and panic-stricken. Miao Xiao Miao cried out in shock when she heard this shocking news. She hurriedly covered her mouth. She could only feel her little heart thumping wildly in her chest. A total of 70 saint emperors and over 200 fourth-level saints to welcome the guests. Even the misty illusory manor would not be able to bring out such a large lineup. Now, all that's left is to understand the high-level strength of the evil monarch manor. Miao Jian sucked in a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Behind him, Mo Wudao and the others also fell silent. Then Jun Wui appeared. Third Master Jun was dressed in a plain green robe. He had an imposing appearance, and was presiding over the welcoming ceremony. As an important figure of the evil monarch manor, for Jun Wui to personally host the welcoming ceremony could be said to be giving everyone enough face. Miao Dao and the others looked at each other and said, "Let's go." Everyone stood up at the same time and walked over. All of a sudden, a loud and clear voice rang out. Sikong and Yi of the Sikong family of the South Mountain congratulates the evil monarch on the grand opening of the evil monarch manor. 10,000 gold taels. A burly man walked out from the crowd, holding a brocade box in his hands. He was the first to arrive. Jun Wui quickly walked up to greet him. He held the hand of the person who came and said with a smile, "Brother Sikong is really too polite. It's good that you're here. There's no need to prepare a congratulatory gift. Men, bring Brother Sikong to rest. Serve tea, serve good tea." Sikong and Yi laughed out loud and followed a white-clothed girl inside. However, not a single person dared to laugh out loud, because there was only one person who dared to show up here. The Duanmu family's patriarch, Duanmu Chao Fan. Jun Wui didn't wait for him to finish and quickly went up to welcome him. He laughed and said, "Brother Fried Rice, you're here too. We're all family, so there's no need to be so polite. You've come a long way, go in and rest." Duanmu Chao Fan looked a little embarrassed as he said, "Brother Wui, I haven't reported this gift yet, what's there to report?" Jun Wui quickly pulled him in. "It'll be dark by the time you finish reporting it." The two of them had been familiar with each other for a long time. So, they didn't have any misgivings when talking to each other. Duanmu Chao Fan continued to argue as he was led inside. But, his stuttering voice could still be heard even after a long time had passed. Everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air in unison. That was because the crowd had formed a large path in front of everyone's eyes. A magnificent lump of fat impressively appeared in front of the crowd. This fatty couldn't even be described as a fatty anymore. Instead, it should be said that he was a lump of meat. A big lump of meat. That big lump of meat swayed as it walked out. Everyone felt as if they were on a boat with every step it took. That piece of fat trembled like the waves of the sea. It was boundless. The new waves of the Yangtze River push the old, and each wave is stronger than the previous one. Meow Xiao Meow's cherry-like mouth opened as wide as it could. She couldn't close it for a long time. It wasn't that she hadn't seen Fatty before, but it was her first time seeing such a fat Fatty. How could a person be this fat? This was too exaggerated. But she soon discovered a strange phenomenon. Wherever this Fatty went, the crowd would automatically make way for him, letting him pass first. Moreover, their expressions were rather respectful. Many people even rushed forward to speak with Fatty. After saying a few words, they quickly retreated, their faces filled with satisfaction and glory. Who is this person? Meow Xiao Meow really didn't expect that a Fatty could actually have such great power. Moreover, he could have such an unbelievable influence. This was really too strange. Just what kind of charm did this Fatty, who was so fat that one could laugh until their stomachs hurt, and then vomit until they couldn't eat for 3 days? And the most ridiculous thing was that this Fatty did not seem to have much strength. His Xian cultivation seemed to be at the silver Xian level at most. Could it be that this person was actually a peak expert? His cultivation had already reached a profound realm where he could perfectly conceal his cultivation? Perhaps that should be the case. Otherwise, it was hard to explain why so many people were so respectful towards him. Miss Xiao Miao seemed to be surprised that this person's cultivation was so low. How could he be respected by so many people? This person is the wealthiest person in the world. The owner of Tianxiang City's aristocratic hall, Tang Yuan, and also the evil monarch Jun Moxie's first best friend. This can be considered as a person who achieves the Tao. His chickens and dogs also ascend to heaven. Mo Wudao said slowly beside her. A wealthy person, the evil monarch's first best friend. Meow Xiao Meow's brain almost crashed. She was completely unable to think. He's just a wealthy person. What's so great about having a little bit of money? Money can enslave ghosts, and can also communicate with the gods. In the Xian continent, where strength reigns supreme, a person who has 10,000 gold taels is not considered much. Even 100,000 gold taels is not considered much. But if it's 1,000,000 gold taels, or even more, reaching an uncountable amount, then this person is the most powerful person in the world. Even if he doesn't have a single bit of Xian Qi, he is still the most dangerous person in the world. Mo Wudao sighed. 1 tael of silver is also a temptation. 10,000 gold is also a temptation. More, it's even more tempting. Some people are able to abide by their principles in the face of tens of gold taels. But what if they are faced with the temptation of an astronomical figure? You must know, a single coin can stump a hero. Having a lot of money is also a kind of ability, an extremely outstanding ability. Meow Xiao Meow nodded her head in a half-understanding manner. In front of them, the world's wealthiest person, Fatty, was panting as he walked towards Jun Wuyi. His stomach was slapping the ground loudly as he walked. Then, Meow Xiao Meow retched, because she suddenly saw that this Fatty's plump face had suddenly revealed a flattering smile. It must be said that this kind of expression appearing on this Fatty's face was really too nauseating. Third uncle, long time no see, hee, third uncle hee. Fatty wiped his sweat as he tried his best to flatter Jun Wui. Jun Wui frowned deeply. Oh, Fatty, what's wrong with you? Didn't Mo Xie help you lose weight? It's only been a few days, and you actually. Jun Wuyi also did not know what to say. This Fatty's current weight had definitely surpassed his previous record. Third uncle. This person, he is broad-minded, his body is fat. This nephew is very open-minded now. Tang Yuan panted heavily as his fats trembled uncontrollably. You are indeed too open-minded. Jun Wuyi was speechless. He waved his hands and ordered his men to quickly drag this Fatty away. With this fatty in front of him, Jun Wui was completely blocked off. This pressure was too great. The moment he finished speaking, Fatty suddenly raised his head and stamped his feet. The fats on his body danced a few times as he shouted, Tianxiang City's aristocratic hall's head shopkeeper, Tang Yuan, has come to congratulate the evil monarch on his grand opening. I present 100 million taels of gold. The moment these words came out, the entire place fell silent. 100 million taels of gold. This fatty did not give anything at all. What rare treasures, heavenly treasures that had been around for thousands of years, nothing at all. He was purely giving money. Giving gold. 100 million taels of gold. This number was no longer an astronomical number. This number was already at a height that 99,999,999% of the people in this world did not even dare to think of. Just using this amount of gold to smash people would be enough to kill at least a few 100,000 people. Miao Xiao Miao's body trembled, and she was also shocked speechless. This fatty was indeed rich, really too rich. Chapter 1070. That's too much. Jun Wui snapped out of his shock and said solemnly. Not much. Not much. Fatty Tang waved his hand in a forthright manner. Third uncle, don't worry. Your nephew doesn't have any other skills. He just knows how to earn some money. That's all I have right now. Then, he lowered his voice and said in a somewhat sneaky manner. Third uncle, let me tell you. Do you remember that guy in Tianxiang City? That brat was showing off in front of me in the Tianxiang City, and I know I was so angry that I immediately pulled 2 large carriages full of gold and smashed that brat to death on the street. Guards, invite shopkeeper Tang in to serve tea. Jun Wui had already raised his voice and shouted before he could finish. This is really unbearable to listen to. This kid is already one of the most powerful people in the world now. How can he still be so insensible? Third uncle, I haven't finished yet. Please listen to me. Tang Yuan struggled for a moment. He was very proud of himself and wanted to finish his heroic deed. Get lost. Jun Wui kicked Fatty's plump buttock. Fatty screamed miserably. Jun Wui felt as if his foot had sunk into a huge cotton bag. He couldn't exert any force. It seems that being fat can also lead to cultivation? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Fatty rubbed his plump buttocks resentfully. Then, he casually waved his hand. For people rushed out from the crowd behind him and quickly unfolded the object in their hand. It turned out to be a soft couch. Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, Fatty lay down comfortably and waved his hand. Lead the way, take me to see Jun Sunshao. Damn it, I'm so tired after walking these few steps. Although he spoke softly to Jun Wui, Miao Xiao Miao was also a venerable. How could she not hear him? She immediately felt dizzy. Using gold to smash a person to death. This fatty. There are no adjectives that can describe him. Seeing Fatty sitting on the soft couch in front of the world's heroes, Miao Xiao Miao finally closed her mouth and said sincerely, I finally understand why he's so fat. Just now, everyone was counting. Fatty had walked no more than 10 steps with his 2 legs. Yet, he said he was so tired. It would be unreasonable if such a person wasn't fat. Jun Wui wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and made a decision in his heart. I'll remind Mo Xie to help this kid lose weight later. If he continues to get fat, how can his body take it? This is a matter of life and death. Say, this kid has a lot of heavenly treasures in his hands. Why didn't he take care of himself? While Master San was pondering, a very sharp voice of a child suddenly rang out, Sunrise Dongfang, I am invincible. For thousands of years, I will unify the martial world. The Dongfang family is here to congratulate. Hearing this voice and the content, it must be Jun Moxie's little cousin, Dongfang Little Rascal. Well, it should be Dongfang Invincible. After sending off Tang Yuan, another little devil star came. Jun Wui felt a headache coming on. Luckily, the little devil star did not come alone. Master San saw Dongfang wenching and the rest walking in with a smile, as Jun Wui instructed the servants to lead the Dongfang family to their accommodations. He felt a cold and aloof aura in front of him. It was as if he had suddenly arrived at the peak of a snowy mountain. It was the Lord of Blizzard Silver City, Han Zhanmeng, and his wife, who had brought many experts from the city to congratulate him. After a period of bustle, the Tianxiang Empire is here to congratulate the evil monarch on his grand opening. We have sent a congratulatory gift. Tiannan City. The messenger from the Tianxiang Empire was Li Yuran, who had a grudge with Jun Moxie in the past. This time, it seemed like everyone was shocked again. The god of wealth, Fatty, had given out 100 million gold. This was undoubtedly an unprecedented amount. And the Tianxiang Empire had actually given out a city. This congratulatory gift was even more shocking. Only Mo Wu Dao and the others with discerning eyes were not surprised at all. The Tianxiang Empire had played this hand beautifully. After the establishment of the evil monarch manor, Tiannan City, which was originally part of the Tianxiang Empire, could be said to only exist in name. The most important thing was that this city was far too far from the core of the Tianxiang Empire. Even if they wanted to, they would not be able to make it in time. But after giving it to Jun Moxie, the situation immediately changed. With the current strength of the Jun family, they would naturally protect the Tiannan city from any attacks or invasions. In fact, it would become a land of absolute peace, that no other forces would dare to encroach on, a city that would not fall. And most importantly, this city would become a solid line of defense for the Tianxiang Empire's south that would never collapse. In this way, although the Tianxiang Empire had given out a city in name, it was equivalent to solving all the problems in the south once and for all, using a small favor in exchange for a great deal. How could Jun Wui not understand the crux of this matter? But it was still a matter of friendship. With a bitter smile, he got someone to lead Li Yuran in. The next person's words caused Jun Wuyi's complexion to change. Hermitage Missouri Wudao is here to congratulate the evil monarch manor's grand opening. This sentence was truly earth-shattering. Everyone present had expected that the three Holy Lands would definitely send someone to congratulate, but no one had expected that the Hermitage Palace Lord would actually come personally. In that instant, the entire place fell silent. Supreme Golden City Shi Ruochen is here to congratulate the evil monarch manor's grand opening. Illusory Blood Si Huyan Aobo is here to congratulate the evil monarch manor's grand opening. Misty Mansion Miaozhan is here to congratulate the evil monarch manor's grand opening. Another three voices rang out, covering the entire place. These three voices were not loud, and the tone was clear and gentle. But it directly shocked the tens of thousands of people who had come to congratulate the evil monarch manor. One manor and three holy lands had actually arrived together. Many thanks, please come in and have some tea. Jun Wui did not dare to be disrespectful, raising his voice slightly. His attitude was still neither servile nor overbearing. Wait, please forgive me for asking, but may I ask where is the evil monarch of your manor? Mo Wudao asked indifferently. We have already shown our sincerity by coming personally to congratulate, but this Lord Evil Monarch of your manor is still not willing to show himself. Isn't this a little too unjustifiable? Could it be that your evil monarch manor actually looks down on the heroes of the world like this? Ever since everyone had arrived, they had not seen the evil monarch manor's Jun Moxie make an appearance. Previously, those who had come to congratulate were all friends of the evil monarch manor, so it was fine if they did not come out to welcome them. But now, the four greatest powers of the one manor and three holy lands had arrived together. By right, when these super-distinguished guests of the three holy lands had come, The evil monarch should have personally come out to welcome them. Furthermore, these were the lords of the three Holy Lands. Their statuses were extraordinary, and they were on par with the evil monarch himself. Doing this was a little disrespectful. The moment Mo Wudao's words came out, all the aristocratic families that belonged to the three Holy Lands began to clamor together. Looking around, there were actually close to 10,000 people shouting at the same time. The commotion was not small at all. After saying that, Mo Wudao did not make any more movements. He waited quietly with a calm expression on his face. His words seemed normal, and although there was a hint of questioning in them, it was not too overbearing. But there was an extremely sinister trap hidden in his bones. He had already noticed that Jun Moxie had not shown himself up till now. But he had waited until now to say it out. This had turned this tiny oversight into a fatal arrow. If Jun Moxie still insisted on not showing himself, Mo Wudao would only need to say a few more words, and the aristocratic families that belonged to the three Holy Lands would add fuel to the fire. The newly established evil monarch manor would most likely stand on the opposite side of the entire world. But if Jun Moxie came out under Mo Wudao's questioning, then it would be a complete case of fawning on the rich and powerful. You came out when you saw the three lords of the three Holy Lands. But when it came to others, even if it was the Dongfang family of Blizzard Silver City or Duanmu Sikong, you ignored them all. But you still came out to welcome the people from the three Holy Lands? If that was not fear, then what was it? In this way, the status of the three Holy Lands would be raised infinitely, and it would also indirectly alienate the hardcore factions that Jun Moxie belonged to. It would also leave an unforgettable impression in the eyes of the world. The evil monarch manor was far inferior to the three Holy Lands. Everyone had long guessed that the three Holy Lands would definitely make things difficult for them. But they had guessed that they would only make things difficult for them during the ceremony. But they had never imagined that Mo Wudao would immediately make a move the moment he appeared. This move was truly out of everyone's expectations. And this was also in line with the military's principle of catching the enemy by surprise, attacking when they are unprepared. After a moment, a leisurely voice rang out. Mo Wudao, what do you mean by this? Do you think that you are more noble than the heroes of the world? Do you really want this seat to welcome you personally when you come? The evil monarch manor has always treated all the heroes of the world equally. There's no difference in distance or distance. No matter who comes, it's the same. Whether it's the Palace Lord of Hermitage or the peak experts of the three Holy Lands, they all have the same status as all the guests here. I respect their intentions, so I naturally will not treat all of you too harshly. What is the meaning of your words today? This abrupt voice was clear and distant. It didn't seem to use much strength at all, but in an instant it suppressed all the clamor. Moreover, it spread out even more melodiously. Everyone could hear it. How brilliant! A strange light flashed in Miao Zhan's eyes as he praised in a low voice. The person who spoke had profound Xian cultivation, suppressing the clamor in one fell swoop. After all, Miao Zhan could easily do that as well. But this rebuttal was even more brilliant. His words not only dispelled Mo Wudao's provocation, but also greatly raised the status of the heroes of the world. No one would be angry, but instead feel honored. I, here, have the same status as the Palace Lord of Hermitage of the three Holy Lands. The evil monarch manor has acknowledged that I have the same status as them. Chapter 1071. Furthermore, what did you say earlier about neglecting Kiki? I beg to differ even more on this point. I, Jun Moxie, may be the evil monarch, but I'm more of a member of the Jun family. The one welcoming the guests at the entrance is my own third uncle. My third uncle, the blood-robed General Jun Wui, has a much higher status and reputation than a junior like me. For my third uncle to host the welcoming ceremony shows the respect this manor has for the heroes of the world. Mo Wudao, could it be that in your mind, your elders are not as good as you? As the palace master of the elusive world of immortals, you actually have the nerve to say such heartless and unfilial words? Furthermore, what did you say earlier about neglecting Kiki? I beg to differ even more on this point. Jun Moxie, may be the evil monarch, but I'm more of a member of the Jun family. The one welcoming the guests at the entrance is my own third uncle. My third uncle, the blood-robed General Jun Wui, has a much higher status and reputation than a junior like me. For my third uncle to host the welcoming ceremony shows the respect this manor has for the heroes of the world. Mo Wudao, could it be that in your mind, your elders are not as good as you? As the palace master of the elusive world of immortals, you actually have the nerve to say such heartless and unfilial words? The clear voice stopped there, but the noisy crowd had already calmed down. This sentence not only clarified his stance, it also viciously countered Mo Wudao. Mo Wudao had used this as a pretext to attack Jun Moxie. But now, Jun Moxie had used the same method to counter Mo Wudao. Mo Wudao's ability to randomly accuse others of crimes is already considered an expert amongst experts. To think that this evil monarch is even more brilliant. Truly, there is always a higher mountain. Miao Xiao Miao almost laughed out loud, thinking that this guy's ability to argue was somewhat similar to Junye's, but it was far inferior to Junye's. Liu Ran, who had already been ushered in, shook his head and smiled bitterly when he heard the conversation. If he was the one dealing with this matter, he would definitely choose the strategy of explaining. He definitely wouldn't use such a sharp counterattack. Although Li Yuren's character was insidious, decisive, and extremely courageous, in her subconscious mind, she had always been cautious. Before thinking about winning, she would first think about losing. The first consideration in everything was to protect her own life, and then everything else. But Jun Moxie was unscrupulous. The two of them had completely different personalities, causing their methods and results to be completely different when dealing with the same matter. Kiki. Mo Wudao chuckled lightly, as if he did not mind. Evil monarch, you're indeed sharp-tongued. Truly admirable. These words seemed to have temporarily put an end to this provocation. But they were still ridiculing Jun Mo Xie for using his sharp tongue to deceive people. Palace Lord Hermitage, you're also very graceful. Forcing this seat to speak up with just a casual sentence, your words are truly too forceful. Although you completely did not consider morality, it's still extremely rare. It's rare for people to be perfect. This seat expresses his understanding. Jun Moxie chuckled and did not say anything else. But this sentence was also a counterattack. Mo Wudao was the one who provoked and humiliated himself, so he could not blame others. Furthermore, that sentence of not considering human morality seemed to be an excuse for Mo Wudao, but the underlying meaning was actually calling him out by his full name and calling him a beast. In this day and age, who would completely disregard human relations and morality? Only a beast that did not understand human nature would act like this, of course. These were only the guesses of the crowd, and no one dared to say it out loud. The evil monarch could ignore the sect Lord Hermitage, but would they dare? Don't think that Jun Moxie had just raised their status to be on the same level as the people from the three Holy Lands, and everyone was secretly delighted in their hearts. But no one was stupid enough to think that they could be on the same level as the three Holy Lands. This was the first time the two of them had clashed, and although they had only exchanged 2 sentences from start to end, it was enough to leave everyone reminiscing, and they felt that this trip had not been in vain. Moreover, everyone had a faint premonition that today, there would definitely be a good show. In the castle, on top of a tall building, Mei Shuyan sat quietly in front of the window, looking down. Suddenly, she said lightly, "That beautiful yellow-robed girl in the misty mansion, who looks so pitiful, is our little sister Xiaomiao, right?" Jun Dashao, who had just defeated the Hermitage Palace Lord Mo Wudao with his sharp tongue, rubbed his nose and laughed dryly. "NN. Over there, over there?" Dugu Xiaoi, Han Yenmeng, and Ke instantly rushed over curiously and looked in the direction that Mei Shuyan was pointing. "You three little lasses!" Mei Shuyan laughed bitterly, but still pointed it out for them to see. "As expected, not bad." "She's really beautiful." Dugu Xiaoi pouted and looked at her without blinking. Miao Xiao Miao was dressed in a light yellow dress. Her figure was tall and slender, and her features were gentle and refined. Although they were still quite a distance away, and he could not see her face clearly, she exuded an aura of nobility and elegance, causing her to be very different from others. "We can ignore the others, but we have to welcome Miss Xiaomiao," Mei Shuyan said softly. "Otherwise, Jun Dashao might think that we are fighting for a woman's favor, and lose his temper as a young master. That would be very bad. Qing Han, let's go down." Guan Qing Han glanced at Jun Moxie, and nodded in agreement. Jun Moxie rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. He thought to himself, "I'll still dare to lose my temper. I'll be thanking the heavens if you don't lose your temper with me. What kind of world is this? You can still say it so confidently when you've reversed the situation." Just now, Jun Dashao had asked Tang Yuan to come up. But Fatty Tang had been carried halfway, and looked down unintentionally. He was shocked to see that he was actually so high up from the ground. He immediately felt dizzy and his soul almost left his body. So, he tumbled down again. It was very rare for these guests to come with their women. Miao Xiao Miao felt a little lonely and uncomfortable. The experts from Misty Mansion passed by Jun Wui, and walked forward under the guidance of a few white-clothed youths. They looked up, and saw that there was an extremely spacious hall in front of them. It could accommodate at least a few thousand tables. There was even an empty space in the middle, and there was a high platform on the opposite side. Just as Miao Xiao Miao was sizing up the layout in front of her, she suddenly saw a figure flash, and then her eyes lit up. Two plainly dressed young ladies suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hall, and were looking at her with a smile. These two plainly dressed ladies did not look too different from the others, but when they stood there, they gave off a feeling that these two ladies were different from the others. Whether it was their demeanor, temperament, or bearing, they were all outstanding, 1 in a million. As for their looks, they were even more outstanding, with peerless elegance. The one on the left, just by standing there, had a kind of domineering leadership demeanor. Although she was smiling, it made people feel that she was not to be trifled with. She was high and mighty, and her might could dominate the world. The one on the right was also smiling, but even though she was smiling, she gave off a cold, aloof, and unapproachable feeling. It was as if looking at her would make people feel that they were blaspheming a fairy. One was like a peony, peerless elegance, yet graceful and luxurious. The other was like a snow lotus at the peak of a snowy mountain, aloof, yet peerless, not like a person of this world. When the two ladies appeared, even though the experts from the Holy Lands and the experts from the Misty Mansion had lived for a long time, and had seen countless beauties, they could not help but be dazzled by them. Such beauties should only exist in the heavens. Miao Xiao Miao had always believed in her own beauty. Even when she heard Mo Junyi boasting about his wife to the skies, although she did not say it, it was not that she did not feel indignant in her heart. It was just that she did not dare to show it in front of great prodigy Mo, afraid that the person she loved would blame her for being too jealous. But deep down, she really did not believe that the elder sister she had never met could be more beautiful than her. In the filthy lands of the Xian continent, how could there be any outstanding beauties? How could they compare to the people of the misty, illusory manor? This was not to be blamed on Miao Xiao Miao for thinking too highly of herself. The people of the Misty Mansion had always felt that they were superior to the people of the Xian continent, and were used to being arrogant. Although Miao Xiao Miao had a gentle temperament, she was still not immune. But at this moment, when he saw the two women in front of him, he couldn't help but feel ashamed. He thought to himself, although I am also proud of my beauty, how can I be compared to these two women in front of me? As this thought flashed through her mind, another thought arose. Who would have thought that the Xian continent would also have such peerless beauties? If what Junyi had said before was true, what should I do? Miao Xiao Miao's heart was filled with hesitation and bitterness. She could not suppress it, and a sense of self-pity welled up in her heart. What she did not know was that when Mei Shuyan and Guan Qinghan saw her face to face, they were also extremely stunned. In the past few days, all the ladies had gathered together. It could be said that spring orchids and autumn chrysanthemums, each excelling in their own field. Shui Yen was graceful, Qing Han was cold and arrogant, Xiao Yi was mischievous, Yen Meng was lively, Qian Sun was gentle and quiet, Ku Er was gentle, and Raimu was calm. It could be said that everyone had their own characteristic. Mei Shiyan sometimes thought, is that bad guy planning to take all the beauties in the world into his harem and catch them all in one fell swoop? But when she saw Miao Xiao Miao today, she realized that it was not complete yet. A girl like Miao Xiao Miao, who was gentle yet strong, soft on the outside and hard on the inside, was really rare. Looking at the other side of her delicate and pitiful face, she was even more stunned. Venerable Mei, how have you been? Mo Wudao smiled and took the initiative to greet him. Miao Xiao Miao thought to herself, this is the rumored person in charge of Tian Fa? Venerable Mei? I heard that she's the evil monarch's woman? Seeing her today, she's indeed peerlessly beautiful. Could it be that the person beside her is the same? Looks like this evil monarch is really lucky with women. Miao Xiao Miao thought to herself, but she was completely unaware that she was also one of the lucky with women of the evil monarch. I wanted to explode yesterday, but after thinking about it, I decided to leave it for today. From today onwards, I will only write for the evil monarch, for the brothers and sisters who support me and like the evil monarch, and for myself, not for the monthly vote. And wouldn't it be a little hypocritical to say that? Hypocritical. So be it. I can't possibly say, there's no hope for the top 10, let's retreat in defeat. If I say it like that, how bad would that sound? Thank you, Big Brother, for the support of the Fire Beacon Brothers. Thank you to all the brothers and sisters who have gifted me with gifts. Thank all the brothers and sisters who voted for the evil monarch. Thank all of you for accompanying me all the way. This month, I will still explode at least 15 or 20 times. We will still walk proudly to the end. To the end. To the next book. Because I am still proud. Today is the 4th chapter. Chapter 1072. Mo Wudao, you really haven't changed. You're still so hypocritical. You obviously hate me to death in your heart, but your eyes are so kind. Mo Wudao, among all the hypocrites in the Xian continent for thousands of years, you're definitely the best. Mei Shuyan Lengling looked at him and said lightly, Venerable Mei's words are still so straightforward. We've fought together for so many years, but Venerable Mei's words are really chilling. Mo Wudao let out a long sigh and said, thinking back to those years, what kind of person is this? The 3 Holy Lands and Tian Fa are already at an irreconcilable point, and he still has the cheek to say 4 lands as one? How could he even think of saying that? Mei Shuiyan rolled her eyes and ignored him. Facing such a thick-skinned and shameless person, there was no point in saying anything more. She might as well save her saliva and smiled at Miao Xiao Miao. This little sister, you must be the Misty Mansion's little princess, Miao Xiao Miao? Yes. Senior Mei, how do you do? Miao Xiao Miao was startled for a moment and hurriedly greeted. Although Miao Xiao Miao was the Misty Mansion's little princess, she was nothing compared to the other party. Venerable Mei had single-handedly supported the Tian Fa forest for hundreds of years. Her cultivation hadn't been very high at that time. In fact, it might not even have been as good as the current me. But this didn't hinder her prestige. She was an out-and-out legendary figure. She was an undeniable overlord of the present age. Especially recently, she only found out that this overlord was actually a woman. This boldness and courage was even more admirable. Why is Miss Meow so polite? If Miss Meow doesn't mind, you can just call me Elder Sister May. The word senior makes me sound old. Mei Shuyan smiled warmly and said, "There are only men here. I see that it is inconvenient for Miss Meow to stay here. Why don't you come with me to have some peace and quiet? Miss Chiao, why don't you join us?" To Miao Xiao Miao, she was her future sister, so it was reasonable for her to address her affectionately. However, to Chiao Ying, Mei Shuyan really did not know how to address her. She could only address her as Miss Chiao. "All right." Miao Xiao Miao was extremely agitated. In that instant, she even forgot to seek the opinion of the elders beside her and agreed immediately. Firstly, she did feel uncomfortable here. Secondly, Mei Shuyan had always been her idol. She was extremely impressed by this legendary woman and agreed without hesitation. Chiao Ying also nodded her head. Her main purpose of coming here was to look for Jun Mo Xie to take a look at the exquisite lotus that had been taken away. If there was a need, she would rather give him some pointers. She did not wish for the exquisite lotus, which was like her own child, to die prematurely. Following Mei Shuiyan to look for young Master Jun was naturally much more convenient than staying here. Miao Zhan did not mind and nodded his head. There were too many people here, and although Miao Xiao Miao and Chiao Ying's cultivation were not bad, they were still women. Following Mei Shuiyan was the most suitable method. Jun Moxie was most likely the great prodigy among Miao Zhan, naturally, did not need to worry about Miao Xiao Miao. Even if he was not, with Mei Shuiyan's identity, she would definitely not do anything to harm Miao Xiao Miao. "May I know who this big sister is?" Miao Xiao Miao looked at Guan Qinghan. "I am Guan Qinghan." Guan Qinghan smiled at Miao Xiao Miao and introduced herself softly. The moment they saw Miao Xiao Miao, no matter if it was Mei Shuiyan or Guan Qinghan, a faint sense of jealousy rose in their hearts. Such a beautiful woman, such a noble woman, and the first woman that Jun Moxie had an intimate relationship with when he was conscious, but now that they saw Miao Xiao Miao's cute and obedient demeanor, with a hint of pitiful expression on her face, they couldn't help but feel pity for her. Not to mention that bad guy. Both of them felt the trace of displeasure disappear without a trace, since it was like this: what was done could not be undone. Instead of keeping it in their hearts, they might as well open their hearts and accept it. Moreover, this Miao Xiao Miao did not look like the kind of woman who was hard to get along with. Miao Xiao Miao felt that the two women were looking at her with a strange gaze and was rather surprised. When they look at me, why are they looking at me with such a strange and complicated expression? However, it turned out that this person was the one that the evil monarch had gone against the public opinion of the entire world for her back then, facing all the rumors and slanders with a single sword, even willing to shed rivers of blood to protect her. Guan Qinghan. Is Jun Moxie up there? Chiao Ying's words caused Miao Xiao Miao's ears to perk up. She was not surprised that Chiao Ying would suddenly mention the evil monarch's name, but she was truly curious about this man who was the combination of a hooligan, a scoundrel, and an iron-blooded and ruthless overlord. What would he be like? "Miss Chiao, do you wish to see him?" Mei Shuiyan looked at Chiao Ying with a smile that was not a smile. The matter between Chiao Ying and Jun Moxie was something that Mei Shuiyan had heard from Jun Dashao before. She knew that this all-seeing Rakshasa had been harshly teased by Jun Moxie a few times. Any woman who had been teased by Jun Dashao would usually end up in a miserable state. This was something that Mei Shuiyan had personally experienced. Thus, the way that Mei Shuiyan looked at Chiao Ying was somewhat meaningful. "I don't wish to see him." For some reason, under Mei Shuiyan's intense gaze, Chiao Ying actually felt a sense of panic in her heart. She hurriedly opened her mouth to deny it, but she quickly snapped out of it and said, I only want to see the exquisite lotus that he took away from me." In her heart, she was berating herself. Why am I panicking? Why am I panicking? But her heart was thumping wildly. This feeling was very strange. It was as if she was a mistress who had seen her real wife today, but she was at a loss of what to do in front of her. At the same time, she had a shocking thought. This venerable May had gotten this nickname because she was a venerable in the past. But, from the looks of it, she was not just a venerable? I'm afraid he's on par with me, or maybe even a level higher than me. Could it be that the title Venerable May was the venerable? But that was impossible, right? If not, how did she increase her cultivation to such a high level in such a short period of time? Oh please, this way please. Mei Shuyan and Guan Qinghan led the way, and walked up from the other side. The people around them watched as the 4 beautiful figures gradually disappeared into the distance, and they could not help but sigh. The 4 beauties were gathered in one place. This was such a delightful opportunity. Now that they had left, they were afraid that they would never be able to see such beautiful scenery again. Rather than calling this building a hall, it would be more accurate to call it a tent. However, this tent was undoubtedly huge. Not only was it a few times taller than a normal tent, it was also millions of times wider. Even though it looked like a tent, it did not give off a simple and crude feeling. The tables and chairs were arranged neatly, and in the middle of each table was a white tablecloth. On top of the tablecloth, there was a pot of fresh flowers that were about to bloom. The leaves were lush and the flowers were light blue. It was elegant and pleasant. However, these fresh flowers, in the eyes of the people, had a different feeling. When the people who had just entered the venue saw this flower, they were already shocked. When they confirmed that all the tables had this kind of flower, their shock was almost indescribable. Austere heart orchid. It was an extremely rare and mystical flower in the Xian continent. Rather than calling it a mystical flower, it would be more appropriate to call it a mystical medicine. A austere heart orchid that was in its blooming stage. If one had the fortune to consume a single petal, it would guarantee that the person who consumed it would be immune to 100 poisons and all sorts of evil for a year. Although this was only effective for a year, to the people of the pugilistic world, who were constantly struggling on the edge of the blade, it was equivalent to having countless chances of survival. But the growth period of this flower was extremely long, requiring a full 3 years. Furthermore, its flowering period was extremely short, lasting only about 3 days from the moment it bloomed to the moment it wilted. Furthermore, it was not easy to preserve the petals of this flower. Only by wrapping it in a warm jade or some other rare material could the medicinal effects not be lost. And these flowers in front of them were clearly the gifts that the evil monarch had given to the people who had come to attend the meeting. Every table had 8 seats. Every single stalk of austere heart orchid had exactly 8 flowers in full bloom. This evil monarch was truly going all out. With so many austere heart orchids, any one of them could be sold for at least 1,000 taels of gold. As for the plants that were still alive, they were even more valuable. They could be said to be priceless. But in this place there were actually thousands of pots. Just these austere heart orchids alone were already a terrifying amount of wealth. It seemed like this evil monarch was actually like a bunch of cabbages, placed here for anyone to pick. This kind of generosity really caused one to be speechless within the great hall. The fragrance of the orchids filled the air, causing one to feel extremely relaxed and relaxed the moment they entered. On every table there was a name. As long as one took out their invitation, someone would naturally lead them to the corresponding table to take their seat. Because there were too many people attending the meeting and the space was limited, apart from the Holy Lands, the other powers that had come to congratulate the evil monarch were only allowed to send a single representative. As for Fatty, Blizzard Silver City, Dongfang family, Sikong Duanmu, and the rest, none of them were present. After all, they were all acquaintances of young Master June. No one would be able to say anything if they were close to each other. Only Li Yuran remained in the Great Hall. Although the Tianxiang Empire had a deep relationship with the Jun family, from the perspective of the country, it was not convenient for them to make their stance too obvious. With Li Yuran's personality, even if he had already dispelled all the enmity between him and Jun Moxie, and could be considered as someone on Jun Moxie's side, with his personality, he would not make it too obvious. Only by making friends from both sides would he be able to obtain some valuable information, or perhaps use these things to exchange for a true friendship with Jun Moxie. This was Li Yuran's final plan. Everyone sat down, sighing at the evil monarch's generosity. But at the same time they realized something. The arrangement of the reception in the Great Hall was exactly what the evil monarch had said earlier: treat everyone equally. Apart from the seats of the three Holy Lands being slightly closer to the front, there was really no difference from the other tables. Chapter 1073. The rest of the people felt very comfortable in their hearts, feeling extremely pleased. Even those aristocratic families that belonged to the three Holy Lands felt much better. In the past, when would they have had such a chance to sit on the same level as others? To think that something that their ancestors had not been able to do, or even dared to think about, had actually been done today because of the evil monarch sitting together with the saint venerables of the three Holy Lands, the Holy Emperor, and even the High Lords of the three Holy Lands. The evil monarch was indeed evil enough. Evil to the extreme. In the entire world, he was probably the only one who could do such a thing. Other people, even if they had irreconcilable enmity with the three Holy Lands, might not dare to make the three Holy Lands lose face in such a grand manner in such an official setting. But the evil monarch dared. Not only did he dare, he even dared to do it so openly. And the most important thing was that the evil monarch had already done so, and the three Holy Lands could not raise any objections. The moment they raised any objections, they would be looking down on the heroes of the world. He would stand on the opposite side of everyone. So the three Holy Lands had to swallow this grievance, and they had to swallow it firmly. After everyone was seated, the three Holy Lands and the Misty Mansions tables were on the first row. Opposite them was a tall platform. This sort of feeling was extremely unpleasant, as if they were the subordinates, and the person on the platform was the true superior. Mo Wudao, Shi Ruochen, and the rest did not say anything, but their expressions were still as gentle as a spring breeze, as if they did not mind at all. But the wariness in their hearts was even stronger. They were all people with unique foresight, and it was naturally rare to obtain thousands of austere heart orchids. But the truly rare thing was, what kind of methods did that brat Jun Moxie use to make these thousands of austere heart orchids bloom at the same time, and every single one of them could produce exactly 8 flowers? This sort of unfathomable methods was the truly shocking part, but while they were shocked, these sect leaders had already decided that when Jun Moxie came out later, they would definitely teach this brat a lesson. Even if the war for seizing the heavens was imminent, and they could not really tear apart all pretense of cordiality, they could not allow the establishment of the evil monarch manner to go so smoothly. On the other side, Qiao Ying and Miao Xiaomiao, who had just walked into another hall on a tall building, were both shocked. The main wall of the hall had an antique sheathed sharp sword hanging diagonally on it. There was only this one sword hanging on the snow-white wall. There were no other decorations, but such a simple, or even monotonous, arrangement gave off an indescribable oppressive and austere aura. The 4 corners of the ceiling above him were inlaid with 4 huge pearls, each of which was glowing with colorful light. Qiao Ying had always lived a simple life, so she didn't know what it was. She just thought it was an ordinary decoration. However, Miao Xiaomiao was born in a prestigious family. She could tell at a glance that these 4 pearls were rare luminous pearls. It was still daytime, so there was nothing special about it. But if it was nighttime, there was no need to light any lamps in this hall. It would be as bright as day. Actually, it was a little unfair to say that it was as bright as day. The light emitted by these luminous pearls was extremely gentle and not piercing to the eyes. At the same time, there was a faint fragrance that was extremely beneficial to the human body, not to mention 4 of these pearls, even just one of them was priceless. It was a treasure that couldn't be bought even if one had the money. But that was not all. The most rare thing was that the 4 pearls were about the same size. For these 4 pearls to be gathered in one place, it could only be described as a miracle. Although the room seemed messy, there were actually a few chairs arranged with ingenuity. The style of these chairs was rather strange, but it was not difficult to discover that this kind of chair would definitely make the person who sat on it feel extremely comfortable. It was far more comfortable than an ordinary stiff old chair. There seemed to be no comparison between the two, and in between the chairs, there was a green jade tea table. In the middle of each tea table, there was a small white jade flower pot. And in the small flower pot there was only a small bud. The color was soft and moist, giving people a delicate and pitiful feeling. "This is the eternal tea fragrance." Meow Xiao Meow cried out in surprise in her heart. Her eyeballs almost popped out of her head. The eternal tea fragrance was an extremely unique herb. It didn't have any medicinal effects, but its miraculous thing was that it could release a tea fragrance that refreshed the heart and refreshed the mind. From the moment this herb sprouted, it was only the height of a finger. It would never grow any longer. Tea fragrance herbs that were less than 100 years old had no effect at all. But the eternal tea fragrance herbs that were 500 years old had a green color and could faintly emit a tea fragrance. Tea fragrance herbs that had reached 1,000 years old had a blue color. No matter where it was placed, it would fill the room with its fragrance. And only tea fragrance herbs that were 10,000 years old and above could be worthy of the name eternal. The color of tea fragrance herbs that were 10,000 years old would turn white. The tea fragrance would naturally be restrained. As long as it was placed on the table, then, even if ordinary water was poured into the teacups on the table, it would still be able to drink the taste of the best quality tea. If it was only like this, then it would only be a rather rare item. But the true effect of the tea fragrance grass was that if the tea that was produced under the atmosphere of the highest grade tea fragrance grass was drunk many times, it would have an extremely great supportive effect towards a profound practitioner's breakthrough in cultivation. It could allow a person to break through the bottleneck in one go without any worries. To those profound practitioners who had been stuck at the bottleneck for tens, hundreds, or even thousands of years, it was simply a treasure that they yearned for even in their dreams. The tea fragrance herbs on the tea tables in front of them had already revealed a white jade color, and even faintly had a sparkling and translucent feeling. From the looks of it, it was at least 10,000 years old. In fact, it might even be tens of thousands of years old. Her own grandfather, Miao Jingyun, had a stalk on the table in front of him. But that stalk was only greenish-white in color, and its age was at most 5,000 to 6,000 years. But it was already viewed as a treasure by her grandfather, and no one in the Miao family was allowed to touch it. And here there was actually 9 stalks, and all of them were top-quality goods that were tens of thousands of years old. This evil monarch, Meow Xiao Meow, did not know how to describe him anymore. Just calling him rich and overbearing was no longer sufficient to describe him. As for describing him as wealthy as a country, that was even more of an exaggeration of the wealth of a country. Perhaps only the words unparalleled since ancient times could barely describe him. Meow Xiao Meow really felt as if she was in a dream at this moment. But Xiao Ying, who was at the side, was even more shocked. She, who had always lived a simple life, did not know what luminous pearls were, nor did she know what eternal tea fragrance herbs were. But the 4 stalks of ginseng that were placed on the windowsill had truly caused her to be shocked. Those 4 stalks of ginseng, even under the sunlight, were shrouded in a faint layer of mist, making it impossible to see what they looked like clearly. As for the ginseng itself, it was constantly changing its shape within the mist. Sometimes it was long, sometimes it was oval, sometimes it was a human face, and sometimes there were all sorts of strange shapes. They actually did not have a fixed shape. At this moment they looked the same, but in the blink of an eye, they changed again, and every single shape was different. Could it be Yin Spirit Ginseng, the legendary treasure of heaven and earth? Qiao Ying was practically on the verge of collapsing, and they seemed to be top-quality Yin Spirit Ginseng that had already matured. Because Yin Spirit Ginseng that had not matured to a certain level could not change its shape as it pleased. It could only change its shape after a period of time. But these few stalks in front of her could change their shape at any time. It could be said that they had already matured to a certain level. This kind of Yin Spirit Ginseng, as the name suggested, could not be used by normal people. Even if it was used, it would not be of any use. In fact, the Yin Qi in the ginseng would be too strong, and it would greatly damage the vitality of the person who used it. There was only one benefit of this ginseng. It could protect one's soul from being destroyed. If one swallowed a thin piece during a tribulation or before a battle of life and death, even if one died and was struck by lightning, one's soul would not really be destroyed. Instead, it would ensure that one's soul could escape unscathed. Regardless of whether one reincarnated or returned to the cycle of reincarnation, one's memories from their previous life would be preserved. In addition, it could even take away 30% of one's cultivation. Most importantly, it would not affect anything in the next life, and there was a minimum guarantee. The aptitude of the next life would not be lower than the current life. To a high-level profound practitioner, this was definitely a treasure that they could only dream of. Its preciousness and rarity was even higher than the exquisite lotus and the seven-colored holy fruit. One had to know that even if a holy infant reincarnated, it would not be able to take away a single bit of cultivation from this life. At most, it would only be able to preserve one's memories. In the process of reincarnation, one's soul would resist, and at least 70% of one's energy would be lost. But this Yin Spirit Ginseng allowed one to not suffer any losses in the entire process, and could even retain 30% of one's original energy. Regardless of cultivation level, if the Heaven Saint Palace could have this kind of Yin Spirit Ginseng, then all the seniors who had sacrificed themselves in the war for seizing the heavens would be revived in another way and live on for tens of millions of years. This was a treasure that defied the heavens. June Moxie actually had 4 stalks here, and from the looks of it, all of them were treasures that were at least 10,000 years old. Qiaoying felt her heart beating like a drum, and her mouth was dry. The only question she had was, the legendary Yin Spirit Ginseng was an extremely Yin attribute, and definitely could not be placed under the sunlight. Otherwise, it would immediately turn into a wisp of green smoke and disappear. But June Moxie had placed them all on the window, facing the sunlight. Even if that brat June Moxie had obtained the treasure but did not know how to appreciate it, the Yin Spirit Ginseng did not seem to have any abnormalities. What was going on? Could it be that her perception was wrong, and this was not the legendary Yin Spirit Ginseng? But what other ginseng species in the world would have such miraculous characteristics? The moment they entered the door, the 2 girls had already sunk into a state of shock. It was as if they did not even hear Guan Qinghan's greetings. They only stood there in a daze. The sound of footsteps rang out from the door, and a cute voice said, "Come, come, come. Quick, look at these 2 beauties. I heard that fellow June Moxie is head over heels for them. Let's go and see what kind of peerless beauties they are." Chapter 1074. Nonsense. The previous voice said, "Little Sister Meng, you have to call me Big Sister. If you call me that again, I'll tell Big Sister Shuiyan. Don't forget, I'm the big one. It doesn't matter how much you mess around, but rules can't be broken. "Tsk, who can tell that you're the big one? Where are you big?" A disdainful voice said. "You. I'm big everywhere. I'm bigger than you. Don't you agree?" A voice filled with anger. One could faintly imagine this girl baring her fangs and roaring, "I just don't agree. If you really have the ability, then strip on the spot." The one who didn't agree, all right, don't quarrel. Don't let others hear a joke. Another voice said. Guan Qinghan and Mei Shuyan's faces darkened. Xiao Ying and Miao Xiaomiao were also stunned. What's going on? What's going on? Why is it so messy? It's fine if it's messy, but why are we also involved? Following a flurry of footsteps, a few graceful figures walked in while chattering noisily. For a moment, the room was filled with girls, and it turned into a garden of flowers. Dugu Xiao Yi, Han Yanmeng, and Ku Er poked their heads out of the door and happened to meet Mei Shuyan's helpless gaze. They all stuck out their tongues and obediently walked in, no longer as domineering as before. Xiao Ying and Miao Xiaomiao looked at the three little girls who walked in, and couldn't help but be shocked. Although these three little girls were still young, every one of them was as beautiful as a pearl. They were adorable and playful. Once they fully grew up, any one of them would be a peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a nation. They would definitely be able to captivate all living beings. Furthermore, the figures of these little Lolas were really too good, especially the two in front. Right now, they could be said to have curves in all the right places, and their figures were graceful. With one look, one would know that these two little girls only looked like Lolas, but they were already at the age where they could be harvested. Look at those breasts. Look at those figures. No matter how much she looked like a loli, she was no longer a loli. As soon as the three little girls came in, they immediately displayed the effect of their existence and immediately broke the somewhat dull situation. Ayaya, is this Sister Miao? Tsk, you're really beautiful. Dugu Xiao Yi smiled as she walked around Miao Xiaomiao, sizing her up from head to toe. In the blink of an eye, she had already walked a few rounds, from her hair to her feet, from her chest to her buttocks, from her waist to her thighs, and even her facial features. Seeing this, Miao Xiaomiao felt her hair stand on end. This girl's gaze was even more perverted than a pervert's. His gaze was as if he wanted to strip Miao Xiaomiao naked and explore her body. What was wrong with this girl? The most outrageous thing was that this girl was comparing herself to Miao Xiaomiao as she looked at Miao Xiaomiao's towering breasts. In fact, she had even unconsciously lifted her own breasts up a little. Finally, she sighed dejectedly and muttered to herself, "It's just a little bit smaller. Others are bigger than you. A little bit bigger is still big." Han Yanmeng moved closer to Dugu Xiaoyi's ear. Her eyes were looking at Miao Xiaomiao's breasts. Her eyes were clearly flashing with jealousy, but her mouth was attacking Dugu Xiaoyi. "What's big about it? We didn't take it off to compare. Only God knows who's bigger." Dugu Xiaoyi pouted and whispered, "Besides, I heard that thing can be rubbed to grow bigger." "I wasn't rubbed. She was rubbed, so what's so strange about her being a little bigger than me?" Miao Xiaomiao almost fainted. What are you talking about? Can you say these words so casually? Moreover, do these girls think that their voices are very soft? Don't you know that experts like us can hear you clearly from hundreds of feet away? Not to mention when you're right in front of us? Moreover, how would she know that I was rubbed? I can't refute this, and I can't even question her. Depressing, too depressing. Awkward, too awkward. Sit. Come, elder sister Miao. Let's sisters have a good chat. Miao Xiaomiao blushed. She was confused as she was being pressed onto a chair by Dugu Xiaoyi. She sat down and realized that the chair was very soft. The back was also very soft, and it was very comfortable to sit on. She leaned back a little, and realized that the back of the chair could be put down. It was a very special small bed then. Ku Er instinctively grabbed the teapot, and poured water for the two girls and the rest of the sisters. After a cup of water was poured, steam rose up, but just as it rose up, it suddenly turned around and turned into a dark green gas that drilled into the cup. The whole cup of water instantly became dark green and clear, like a large piece of top-grade jade. At the same time, an extremely elegant but relaxing fragrance of tea overflowed, and instantly filled the entire hall, and gradually spread out. Xiao Ying and Miao Xiao Miao immediately felt refreshed. It was just a sniff, and it had such an effect. In just a moment, the fragrance had already spread to the reception hall on the first floor. Such a long fragrance, even though it couldn't be considered to have spread for 10 miles, it was almost there. Everyone in the hall who smelled this fragrance also twitched their noses. What kind of tea is this? It's so fragrant, it's simply too fragrant. Dugu Xiaoi sneakily pulled Miao Xiao Miao to sit down. Her eyes were rolling around, and she was thinking about what method she should use to get some cooking tips from this big rival in love. That bad guy said that he wanted me to practice cooking, so I can't get cold feet this time. Xiao Ying ignored the group of girls beside her, who were all thinking of their own schemes. She picked up her teacup and took a sip. Then, she said in a gentle voice, "Isn't that fellow Jun Moxie here? An old friend of Tianxiang's has come, so he naturally has to go and say hello. He'll be here soon," Mei Shuyan said with a smile. "Isn't he going to personally preside over the opening ceremony?" Xiao Ying was really surprised this time. Opening ceremony, in the end, it's just a ceremony. Mei Shuyan smiled faintly. If Mo Wudao is willing to be more obedient, why would Mo Xie insist on appearing? How is this just a normal ceremony? Could it be that Jun Moxie, the person with the highest authority in the evil monarch manor, is not going to personally preside over such a grand event? Xiao Ying's hands trembled, and she almost spilled the tea. This was too shocking. This was too ridiculous. So it turned out that Jun Moxie did not intend to appear. Again, no matter how grand the ceremony is, it's ultimately just a ceremony. Whether he appears or not depends on his mood. Mei Shuyan was also very helpless. Actually, this was not the only ridiculous thing. There would be another one very soon. Depends on his mood. Xiao Ying was completely in a mess. Just at this moment, a loud boom rang out from below. Then, it was as if a pot had been boiled. Loud noises rose into the sky. What's going on? Xiao Ying furrowed her brows. For the opening ceremony of the evil monarch manor, we've prepared top-quality wine for all the guests. Mei Shuyan said helplessly. She was really a little speechless towards this matter. Preparing good wine, that's very good. Xiao Ying thought to herself. There was practically no one in the pugilistic world who didn't like wine. No matter how precious the wine was, it shouldn't be able to cause such a commotion, right? And that sound just now was already so loud, but it didn't sound like cheers, but more like, but at the same time, in order to thank everyone for attending the opening ceremony, we've prepared a blooming austere heart orchid for every table. Just nice, one for everyone. Mei Shuyan smiled bitterly as she handed it to everyone. Pooh. Xiao Ying spat out the tea that she'd just drunk, coughing nonstop. Her eyes widened, and all sorts of strange emotions surged in her heart. The austere heart orchid was indeed miraculous to the extreme, but it had a huge taboo. One could not drink alcohol after consuming it. If one drank alcohol within 2 hours after consuming it, it meant that the medicinal effects would be completely lost. Although there were no other effects, and it would not cause any harm, it was still a waste of a rare spirit herb, losing the chance to be immune to hundreds of poisons for a year. Right now, that was exactly the situation below. If one wanted a spirit herb, one could not drink alcohol. But this wine seemed to be that heavenly grade wine that was auctioned in Tianxiang City. Hundreds of thousands of silver taels for a jar, but after drinking the wine, the craving of the mouth, what about the spirit herb? This was a treasure that guaranteed immunity to hundreds of poisons for a year, a guarantee of life. No wonder this group of pugilistic people were so conflicted. looking at the already filled cups of wine in front of them, then looking at the austere heart orchid on the table. Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was a difficult choice. Many of those who treated wine as their lives as well as their hands were trembling, their throats making swallowing motions, and their eyes were already staring blankly. Whose idea was this? Qiao Ying asked, amused and annoyed at the same time. This was too mischievous. Isn't it Mo Xie's idea? Mei Xuyan helplessly rubbed her temples. She still didn't understand June Moxie's intentions until now. Was it purely a prank? What a brilliant idea, ah! It's a vicious trap with a specific target. Miao Xiao Miao smiled faintly. The current Mei Xuyan was probably too involved in the situation to see clearly, and was also very concerned about this grand opening ceremony, so she didn't think of it for a moment. But Miao Xiao Miao was a bystander. Firstly, she was nurtured by her family, so she was very familiar with such schemes, and secondly, the previous battle of words between June Moxie and Mo Wudao had given her a lot of inspiration, so she instantly understood the crux of the matter. What does Miss Miao mean? Mei Xuyan's eyes lit up, and she instantly understood. Recently, Mei Xuyan had been busy with chores, and it was rare for her to be so attentive, and with a flash of inspiration, she instantly understood. Qiao Ying's elegant brows were tightly knitted. If this was a targeted trap, then there was only one person targeted, Mo Wudao. Only someone like Mo Wudao, who was the best at making use of a pretext, would be able to grasp every detail to attack June Moxie, and achieve the goal of destroying this grand opening ceremony. And only this way, June Moxie's counterattack would be even more incisive, because this time, they were truly prepared for this battle. Qiao Ying could only hope that Mo Wudao would not stir up trouble, and save some face for the three Holy Lands, but just as she was worrying, that gentle voice had already sounded, and Qiao Ying's entire body instantly turned cold. Chapter 1075. June Moxie. Haha, to actually do such a despicable thing on the day of the evil monarch Manor's opening ceremony. This Mo Wudao's eyes have truly been opened. What a good evil monarch, truly evil enough. Mo Wudao laughed and said in a cultured manner. May I ask what Lord Mo means by that? Shi Ruochen knew that Mo Wudao needed someone to support him, so he naturally stood up. Apart from the people from the three Holy Lands, it was rare for anyone else to be willing to interfere in the conflict between the two superpowers. Haha, this wine is naturally good wine. I believe that many people will not be able to taste such heavenly quality wine in their entire lives. From this, it can be seen that the evil monarch Manor is very sincere in their hospitality. Mo Wudao smiled lightly, but his tone was a little insincere. Flowers, and even better flowers. Anyone who consumes a piece of orchid can be guaranteed to be immune to hundreds of poisons for a year. It can be said that they have given another life to all the guests, or even many lives. What a generous gesture! Since the evil monarch's hospitality is so generous and sincere, then why did Brother Mo say that he is despicable? Could it be contradictory? Shi Ruochen said with a smile. The two of them echoed each other and pushed forward. Everything in the world has its own way of countering and reinforcing each other. Good wine and flowers are both treasures, but when the two are mixed together, the wine will have no taste and the flowers will have no medicinal effects. The two will neutralize each other, but it will mean that we have not obtained anything and have rejoiced for nothing. We are only here to vent our frustrations. Even if we wish to enjoy the banquet today by only drinking wine and not using the flowers, this flower will only bloom for 3 days at most. If we miss this time, the effects of the flower will be gone, and it will be a waste. Mo Wudao said loudly. June Moxie, what is your intention in using such a despicable method to play tricks on the heroes of the world? As he said that, his eyes were like two sharp swords being unsheathed as he looked upwards sharply. You can drink wine but not eat flowers. You can't drink wine if you want to eat flowers. It makes one feel as though they are sitting on pins and needles. June Moxie, is this how your evil monarch manor treats your guests? Huyen Aobo followed up with a loud shout, completely igniting the anger in the hearts of these Jianghu heroes. There were two treasures in front of him, but he was unable to make a choice. Wasn't he toying with him? A warrior prefers death to humiliation. Even if your evil monarch manor is renowned throughout the world, but you can't treat all the heroes of the world as playthings. That's right, what is the intention of the evil monarch manor? Could it be that fooling others gives you a sense of accomplishment? If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have come. We gave you face, yet you played us like this. This is simply intolerable. The evil monarch manor is too much. How infuriating, under the deliberate provocation of those with ulterior motives, the atmosphere in the hall became more and more heated. It gradually brewed and was about to explode. If it were to explode, this power would be enough to turn the opening ceremony of the evil monarch manor into a joke for all eternity. Although Mo Wudao had a calm and steady temperament, but seeing the current situation, he felt that the situation was already set. No matter how the other party tried to salvage the situation, there was nothing they could do. Thus, he couldn't help but reveal a pleased look. Ha ha ha! A burst of laughter rang out. Following that, June Moxie's clear voice rang out. What a joke! Mo Wudao, this seat really doesn't understand. Why is this hermitage sect lord always measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain? Don't you feel that your actions are very laughable? I really don't understand why Senior Hermitage would choose you to be the Immortal Palace sect lord. The moment the laughter came out, it shook the sky, suppressing all the noise in the courtyard. Today is the grand opening ceremony of our evil monarch manor. This seat has been treading on thin ice, so how could there be such an obvious oversight? Saying that this seat wants to toy with all the heroes of the world? Mo Wudao, do you think that I, June Moxie, am as retarded as you? Oh? Since that's the case, I would like to hear the evil monarch's explanation. Pei, do I still need to explain to you? Anyone with eyes can see that the austere heart orchid is a gift from this manor to all the heroes of the world. Everyone who comes here will get one. I believe everyone can see this. As for the wine, it is the way our evil monarch manor treats all the heroes of the world. June Moxie said mockingly. Who doesn't know that there is a conflict between these two? Since I can take out so many austere heart orchids, how could I not understand the logic behind it? Everyone was shocked. Since you know, why are you still doing this? Everyone, please take note. Below the flower pot in front of everyone, there are 8 small handkerchiefs. And every piece has a corner exposed, and when put together, they form the shape of a flower. Everyone should be able to see it, right? June Moxie said lightly. These 8 small handkerchiefs are just right for everyone. These handkerchiefs are woven from the silk of the snow silkworm of the snowy mountains. They do not fear the cold or heat, and are incomparably tough. And if any spirit herb in the world is wrapped in this handkerchief, even if the spirit herb is crushed, its medicinal effects will still be guaranteed. This small piece of cloth is also a gift of thanks from our evil monarch manor to all the heroes of the world. As for the austere heart orchid, everyone can have one. With this silk handkerchief accompanying it, there's no need to consume it on the spot, right? Everyone can keep it in the snow silk handkerchief and take it away. You can consume it whenever you want. If we can't drink wine today, wouldn't that spoil the mood? Everyone, let's part happily and not return until we're drunk. Does everyone understand what I've said? Following his voice, everyone looked over and instantly made an O sound. All of their eyes turned to look at the austere heart orchid and the snow silk handkerchief on the table. They'd originally thought that the handkerchief was just there to look good. Who would have thought that it was actually an even rarer treasure? Instantly, everyone felt a deep sense of shame in their hearts. The evil monarch was so generous, actually gifting us 2 treasures in a row. If we include that heavenly grade wine, it would be 3 treasures. But we still didn't know what's good for us and made a ruckus, almost misunderstanding him. We really shouldn't have, if we want to blame him for not making things clear. That's even worse. Since he's placed it here, then it must be given out. He's the host. He can say it whenever he wants. You can only blame yourself for not being able to keep your cool. Otherwise, what's the point of placing it here? Could it be that we're really declaring war against all the heroes of the world? How could there be such logic, Mo Wudao, Lord Mo, don't you think you're laughable? June Moxie's voice was still ringing out, but it had already become somewhat angry. My evil monarch manor has put in so much effort to ensure the safety of all the heroes of the world, and even spared no expense to give the greatest respect to all the heroes of the world. But you 3 holy lands actually dare to slander our evil monarch manor like this? Mo Wudao, just what are your intentions? Are you trying to frame this evil monarch manor, or are you trying to frame all the heroes of the world? This seat is here to request Lord Mo to give a proper reply, and not to change the topic. Just what are your intentions? Faced with such a heart-wrenching question, even with Mo Wudao's deep schemes and strong willpower, he still couldn't help but be thrown into disarray by this sudden question. Originally, it was already in the bag. Why did the situation suddenly change in the blink of an eye? It truly felt as if the entire world had been flipped upside down. Feeling the unkind gazes coming from all directions, Mo Wudao suddenly felt a sense of fear and bewilderment that he hadn't felt for a long time. It was as if everything was no longer under his control. This was a feeling that he had long forgotten in the long course of his life. The last time he encountered it seemed to be a matter of far too long ago. At the very least, this was the first time such a situation had occurred since he became the sect master of the elusive world of immortals. As a lord of a generation, to slander others, and it had to be exposed in front of all the heroes of the world, with no room to retaliate, this feeling of humiliation and defeat was truly unbearable. Manor Lord June is indeed far-sighted and far-sighted. Mo Wudao was indeed someone who was able to let go of things easily. With a self-mocking smile, he said, I believe that Manor Lord June's arrangements must have a deeper meaning. This Mo was careless for a moment, and actually made such a mistake. I am extremely sorry, but I hope that Manor Lord June will not pursue this matter on account of the fact that this sect is standing on the side of the heroes of the world. Evil monarch, as expected of the evil monarch. Such boldness is truly something that no one in the world can match up to. This sentence of his had vaguely pointed out that the situation in front of him was a trap that June Moxie had specially arranged for him. Following that, he openly admitted his mistake, admitting that he had fallen into June Moxie's trap, and even used the stance of righteousness to extricate himself from this predicament. After that, he even slightly retaliated. The meaning behind his words was, paying such a huge price just to frame me once, is it worth it? Mo Wudao's attitude was instantly lowered. Although it made others feel that he was upright, he had truly fallen into a disadvantageous position in the battle just now. Including the time at the entrance, Mo Wudao had already lost twice in a row. This might seem like a battle of words, but it had a huge impact. At the very least, it would have a huge impact on the positions of these people in the hall in the future. Because this time, the 3 sect leaders of the 3 holy lands had acted together, but they had still lost. Not only had they lost, they had even been forced to apologize on the spot. In the eyes of the heroes of the world, this was an inconceivable matter. Therefore, regarding their future path, the position of their families, and the direction they would rely on, everyone needed to think carefully. Sect leader Mo, as the Lord of the Hermitage, one of the 3 holy lands, I believe that no matter what kind of treatment you are given, it will be sufficient. If this seat wants to worry, I will only worry that the treatment given is not high enough. There was a sincere arrogance in June Moxie's voice as he said coldly, 4 sect leader MO, for the Holy Lands for thousands of years, I believe that no matter what kind of sacrifice it is, it will be worth it. On the surface, Jun Moxie's words seemed to elevate Mo Wudao and the 3 Holy Lands to an extremely high level. But in reality, it contained a completely opposite meaning. This point, those who were qualified to come to this hall were not fools, anyone could hear it. I am not doing this for you, I am doing this for the 3 Holy Lands. As long as I can strike you down, I will spare no effort. Even if I have to spend a lot of money, so what if I really make a sacrifice? This little bit of money this daddy can afford to lose. As long as the problem can be solved with money, then it is not a problem. In terms of financial loss, no matter how shocking the number is, it is not considered a loss. Not to mention anything else, just the huge profits from Fatty Tang alone is more than enough to make up for the loss. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.